Malo Lede, Talo Falava, Aloha, Kiora to everyone, welcoming everyone to this live digital Gava session on the Polynesian Ice podcast. I am Mashi Fale here, coming all the way from New Zealand, Aotearoa. Um, Beautiful evening so far today. Tua, how's your day going? And how's everything down there in the entertainment capital of the world?
Everything's going great here. It's been a great work week. It's going to be a short work week because of the holidays, but things are going well. We're getting ready for the opening of my oldest daughter's wrestling season. So her
Mm.
first tournament will be Friday. So that's kind of the exciting news from my neck of the woods, Masi.
Very nice. And happy Thanksgiving. It's the Thanksgiving that everyone is prepping for, I believe tomorrow. So it's a good time. Everything a lot of people has a lot of things to be grateful for. We are also just want to let all our viewers know that we are live on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and also X and Patreon. However, you consume your live digital kava session, we are live on those platforms. And we'll I think today we will go over the William Mariner's account. It's been a minute
It's been a
that we
minute.
went. It's been a minute since we've gone over our episodes because we've had a lot of other topics that we've talked about, and also topics that our viewers have brought up that we've kind of talked about. Also, we've had many guests as of recent, and
Yes.
just to let our viewers know that we are expecting more guests in the future. But we thought we would do a live digital cover session to talk about and continue the series of William Mariner's account being done by our friend Lolo, Kawa University.
Yes, absolutely. And just a couple items here. As always, if you want to contribute and throw in a digital kava bag, you can use
Mm,
the super chats. And also, that will, we're making a commitment here that if you do have a super chat, that we will pull it up. Also, want to make a shout out to our paying members of the channel. We picked up
mm,
a couple new paying members of the channel. That's one way to contribute and also to give support. And as a paying member, if a paying member makes a comment, we also make an effort
yes,
to
sir.
make sure that comment is brought up and
And
shared. Just
highlighted.
a
Yep.
yes, and highlight. It's just a small way to say thank you to all the paying members and those supporting. And we're a little earlier than usual in the week, right, Masi?
Yep.
Primarily, it's because the holidays that are coming up here with Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and all the people that will be busy with family and friends. So we're coming on a little bit earlier than usual, kind of get
Yeah.
our kava fix. Actually,
Yes.
last night had some friends over and we were drinking some kava last night at the
Oh, nice.
house and hanging out from kava from Tofua. So not
Right.
the highest quality, not the fine kava, but it was pretty good.
Mm,
Pretty good. We did a bag and a half and had a good evening and got ourselves ready for the day.
nice.
Um,
Nice. Well, while you're looking for that comment too, I'll just also share that some of the Faikaba venues that I was at too in Tonga,
oh yeah.
the Kalapu Herepeku in Fashmoyafia Tungi. I was there, and also we checked up another Faikaba spot for the alumni of the Atele guys that we went and check out. It was very cool. So hey, it was just short visits to both, but we hit two in one night just to check up on some of the community, what's happening
Mm.
in each of those sectors of Kapus, and it was fun. So while we're on that topic, I'll just also share that too.
Yeah, just something that's kind of interesting with that, Masi. So I work here for the electrical utility here in Nevada,
Hmm.
and there's actually a kalapu that our company partners with in Reno. They're called
Wow.
I think they're called Farekai Pahia.
Eh.
They're called the Farekai Pahia Kalapu, and we do an annual like event with them where they pack, I believe, if I remember correctly, they pack backpacks of school supplies and stuff for kids in the Reno Tahoe area. So they do that on an annual basis, and our company partners with them. One of our directors, she was mentioning it to me, and she's like, "Oh, next year, you should probably, represent us up in Reno," because she knew that they were Polynesians and Tongans and the Kalapu there. So I mean,
That's
just
pretty cool.
pretty cool. I mean, like, this is one of the things that we highlight, that you know it's easy to find negatives. You can find negatives about anyone or anything, but there's a lot of positive influence that the Kalapus and the Kava community give to their community, and this is just one example of that. And actually, let me see if I can even pull up an article or a video on it, just because that came up to my mind. But what are your thoughts
Yeah.
about?
No, no, there is. I think there is one. I think you did touch a little bit on it. I think it was one of, I think one of our Tongan sisters was kind of doing a big thing about the negativity of
Mm,
kava. And it's still going. It's still going, but like I find it very funny because if you want to compare harm of alcohol and stuff, it's not even close. And of course, with the harm that he's saying, and I think you brought up a good point, saying, okay, if Kawa is doing this to me, these are already bad apples that are just there. You're gonna find them. So if people use cell phones to have affairs or to do trafficking, are we gonna stop using cell phones and the internet? Some of the like it's just very funny
yeah,
because you can find bad things in all things, and it our Tongan sister is going getting a little overboard with thinking that we need to ban it. Okay, Tua, can you still hear me? Oh, Tua, I kind of lost you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're kind of frozen on my end, but we'll just kind of go
Can
ahead
you hear
until
me?
you kind of. Yep. Can
Yeah,
you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So
they can.
so yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I can hear you.
okay. And yeah, just that Tony sister over there. Not it's a bit interesting. Of course, there's some things that we can do better, but to make her argument more valid, then you need to apply it with every single thing. Like all the new technologies that we have, there's a lot more good to it. But of course, if you have bad intention and a bad mindset, you're gonna do bad. So I just don't get the argument where she's coming from. I could see if Kaba Tonga was really that bad compared to alcohol, okay, then that makes sense. But with the consumption of social interactions, it's not even close. And even the after effects of your health compared to both social drinks that is consumed by our Polynesian people, it's not even close. And then if you want to talk about some of the inappropriate stuff that happens, alcohol is much in a consistent level compared to Kawa. So that's just me. I don't know if you had anything else, but to me, that's just come to my mind because I have seen that there is that push from our Tongan sister there.
Yeah, no, I've seen it as well. And one of her arguments is, she says that it was only for cultural events, right? And that it's been hijacked. But when you go look at William Mariner's account, they were drinking kava on a daily basis, multiple
Yeah,
times throughout the week. So it wasn't just for ceremonial slash
and
cultural; it was a social event as well on a regular basis anciently.
yes, and then that's probably what she grew up on as only a ceremony. Maybe her families were not kava drinkers as a social thing, but I've always knew kava had to be a social thing because that's how you able to relate on stories and having different families meet in a gathering place. I mean, like especially when you have civilizations, you had to have a place of social gathering, and the social gathering is always with a social drink. So
Hmm.
and it was a gathering place of socially doing it, and then kava is just also implemented in our ceremonial stuff. So I think that's just a lack of cultural understanding that she does not understand and is probably needs some understanding, probably because she hasn't encounter with it. So
Yeah, and this may be coming back, like you mentioned, Mussy in the past. A lot of this might be unresolved trauma in the past. Maybe
probably,
she's had some very negative
yeah,
experiences with kava and that stuff, and so we, can't blame her for maybe having a negative perspective. But at the same time, just because one person or a couple people had negative experience doesn't mean it's negative for everyone. And so I appreciate her perspective into
yep.
saying, hey, there is a potential negative to it, but I do have a limit to it that she kind of goes to the point of we need to get rid of it. And I don't know if that's a wise thing to do, in my
To a
opinion.
it remind this argument. Yes, and I like I we are a platform that we invite all ideas, and we I don't think she has anybody that's actually kind of at least have her on a program to really kind of delve into the argument to really defend her position. But it reminds me, it's almost like something of, prevent, stop bullying 100% in school, right?
Mm.
Is that you really gonna stop bullying? If there's people who wanna bully, they're gonna happen anyway, and there's some kids are gonna have bad experience. Does that make school really a bad experience for kids that they shouldn't go be going to school? Okay, it can be very difficult to go, but it doesn't mean that school is not good for you. It's kind of that's what it reminds me of, kind of this argument. It's just there's always gonna be stuff that's gonna be bad experience for certain individuals, but at the end of the day, like I
No,
said, Kaba is like the school. Kaba is very important because it was a form of education. I mean, that's what's the traditional education for our people was the tanoa, right? That was one of the traditional education, and anyone can infiltrate that education with some. Sometimes in school
just
you
like
go to
modern
learn.
education has been
Yes,
infiltrated and corrupted.
yes, you people go to school to learn different things, and you come back, they learn about social activism. You know what I mean? you
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So it's the same idea. It's not like do we have to throw everything out? It's like, no, it's still very good. But to me,
It's
you, it's not even close to the harm that's actually happening to our people. It's a very small stuff and just very small stuff that are actually happening. And unfortunate, there's some stuff that are happening, but doesn't make it bad. There's just some bad apples in every aspect, like I shared before.
yeah. No, and this is what I think Jordan Peterson calls the all devouring mother,
Mm,
right? And what that is when you try to create this perfect environment where no harm and no issue can happen, this is where you start getting people to police freedom of speech, right? Because you might offend someone. So you
yeah.
can't say anything that might offend someone. And yeah, we don't like people being rude and mean, but you know what's worse is when you force people not to speak what they believe, and
Mm,
society suffers for it
mm,
because you don't allow people to think freely, and
yeah.
opportunities are lost. There's always a give and take there. Real quick on comments, just Ofa Malo, he says Malo Kautama, welcome to
Malo,
the live digital
welcome.
conversation. And we also have I don't know how to say this. Drakshi, I don't know. Says
Traction.
mahalo. Might be a Hawaiian
Uh,
brother or sister right here.
Mahalo.
Welcome, welcome. Don't really see this tagline or this handle. So welcome to the live digital conversation. Real quick, just to kind of touch base on this. This is an article that came out earlier this year, right? The FKP, which is the Farakai Pahia, I think, Kava Club holds their third annual backpack drive for the Reno area. And as you can see, they fill up backpacks and
Mm,
school supplies. And, the FKP Kava Club of Reno will host its third annual community wide backpack drive on Saturday. It tells the time. The event is open to families from Reno and surrounding areas, and children must be accompanied with an adult. And then, they'll be offered free backpacks and school supplies, along with live music, food, games, and other activities throughout the day. What a
awesome.
great way to contribute.
Yes, and how long has this been going to your
This is the
company?
third year. This is the third year.
Wow, nice.
So that's
Awesome.
awesome.
That's awesome
I
stuff.
mean, that's a huge, huge positive.
Oh, and
With
just to
the
touch. just
Oh,
to
go ahead,
touch with
Massey.
that, that's 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 not like one of. There's many Faikava clubs that have done many community service that a lot of people. It's not just told to everyone that a lot of them do. And another thing that is also done, that I've seen many times, that a lot of the families in need to kind of fundraise. They would go to the Faikava clubs to sell like either some some food and stuff, and then the whole kava clubs would buy all of it just to sell the person's food and stuff, so they can have money to pay for school or some other bills and stuff. So there's a lot of charity stuff in different in all scales, small and large. So awesome stuff to highlight. To
Yeah, 100%. With that being said, let's jump into the video here.
Oh, it's on mute. Cannot hear it. To
It's on mute.
I can't hear it on my
Hmm.
end.
We must be having some technical difficulties because
Okay, okay. Bear with us, our
let's do it
kava
again.
drinkers.
Malki fu malo hekava. Let's try that again. Let's try that again.
Chapter 5. We're now going to talk about
Can you hear
Tupotua.
it?
Mm,
Tupotua is the son of
no,
Tupuaho. Is
I'm not hearing anything.
Hmm. This is unusual. All right. All right. This is not the ideal time to have technical difficulties. Let me do this. Let me just close this tab and
Okay.
reopen it. So let's open up. But you can hear me, right? You can
Yep,
still
I
hear
hear you
me.
just fine. I hear you just fine. I just don't hear our brother Lolo.
All right. History. Yeah, because I can hear it and it's not muted. I don't know what's going on here.
Mm. It could be just me, but I don't think so. I mean, if our viewers hear it, they'll
Yeah.
let you know. But I'm pretty sure they're not hearing it if I'm not
No,
hearing it.
usually if you don't hear it, nobody else is hearing it.
we're now going to talk about
There we
Tupotua.
go, Tua.
Tupotua
Okay.
is
I
the
hear it.
son of Tupuaho. Tupuaho is the king that was in Tonga that Tupo Niwa, who's from Vava'u, wanted to assassinate using his brother Finau, who was the king or the high chief of Ha'apai, to go help him assassinate Tukuaho. Tukuaho had wives, and one of his wives' attendants, Tukuaho had a child with one of the attendants. We talked about Finau's daughter being married and having attendants with her as well. Tukuaho had wives, and one of his wife's attendants he had a child with and had Tupoto'a. Tupoto'a was the main chief that was assigned to take the Port-au-Prince. So Tupoto'a has been around. Tupoto'a obviously had relationships here with Finau and with Tupo Niwa.
Real quick there, I'm pretty sure that's the same. Is that the same Tupoto and so forth that Taufa'ahau ends up coming from?
Taufa House father, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I
I'm
think
pretty
that's
sure.
yeah, I think that's where that line is coming from. But also want to highlight this. Malo Apito Moe, he
Oh,
just became a paying
malo,
member of the
malo boy.
channel. Malo
Thank you for joining
Apito
us.
Mo. Appreciate it. So yeah, so I mean, we're starting to see some of the interesting people in the relationships here.
Yes.
Now Tupoto'a, ever since his father was assassinated, wanted revenge on the person who assassinated him, which is Tupo Niwa. So Tupoto'a goes to Finau Ulukalala and asks Finau if he can, be under his service and be friends with him for an opportunity to get close to Tupo Niwa to kill him. Now it was strange that Tupoto'a wanted to be friends with Finau Ulukalala, considering Finau Ulukalala was one of the main accomplices to kill Tupoto'a's father, Tukuaho. But nonetheless, he didn't think that it was beneficial for him to try to kill Finau, or else he was going to die.
And this says a lot about Finau Masi because Tupo knew as his brother, right?
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, we have to take this into account. This is kind of a weird dynamics that's going on here because I mean these are we don't give credit. I mean, we know that the Urkalalas were known to be pretty vicious,
Interesting. Yeah.
and they have a very political mind, and there was always a political drive for everything.
Mm,
So it's interesting to see here because Urkalala assisted Tupo Niwa, his brother, in assassinating Tuaho, who was
yeah.
the Tuikanukupolu,
At the time,
right,
correct.
at the time. So it's just kind of a weird dynamic. It's like the Game of Thrones, right? The two brothers, the one who assassinated the monarch, the son of the monarch is now friends with one of the brothers of the assassin, and that assassin was supported by the brother, but they're all talking together. It's just this is kind of strange. I don't know if you had
Mm.
any thoughts on that, but this is a pretty complex little situation here.
No, I mean, it just makes me think like if we're getting these storylines and narratives, these are just well known because they're documented. Just imagine during the height of just even going to the 1500s. This is much earlier in history, in the 1800s of Tonga's history. But it's how very political things were. But I can just only imagine how it was. Ooh, even 100 years before that, 150, 200 years. It's mind blowing that our people were very sophisticated, and also it's all about, and that's the hard thing, right? Gaining power and maintaining power are very
Two
difficult things
different
to do.
things.
Yes, two different things and difficult. So
Yeah. No,
yeah,
100%. And that's one of the things that when we were talking, I think our last live, where I just learned, but apparently you knew, but I didn't know that there were riots in the early 1900s, right?
1916. It's not well talked about because
1916.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's not
And
well talked
and
about. Yeah,
and it was well known that Tupo II was under tremendous political pressure because guys, other chiefs, like, I mean, this is the same thing happening, right? You
yeah.
have the Tucano Kupolu and there's unrest, and the chiefs underneath are trying to sabotage. Everybody's still kind of vying for power, and we sometimes overly sugarcoat our history that, oh, somehow everybody just got in line. Yes, we survived because we were able to hold unity, but it was held together basically by duct tape and bubble gum. And really, it's because God, Tupo the first gave it to God, and now a new idea comes to my mind when Tupo the first gives the people and the country of Tonga to God. He's not as much worried of the foreigners because he's like, we can deal with the foreigners. We
Yeah.
can have treaties, we can
Hmm.
structure our government. He's like, maybe he wasn't so worried about the foreigners and he was more worried about our internal unity and the ability of the country to stay unified, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
staying a cohesive, because that is what puts the country at risk. And like you mentioned, Mussy, from your observance of colonization throughout Polynesia and the Pacific, the biggest driver was lack of unity,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
maybe Tupou
Because
the first is like, we need unity. We need God to unify us, because if not, we're going to get colonized.
correct. Well, and that's a big part of why the stability by the Tuitonga uh, line was huge, because I think that was a big part of Polynesia's identity, Tua. And you're talking about years and years of losing that identity, and every island is kind of for themselves at this kind of point, while everyone is just trying to get political power, what's left of it, trying to fill in the vacuum. So
Mhm.
what's happening right now, Polynesia is going without identity because there is no, the Tuitonga has kind of over time just kind of shrunk into what, maybe some influence in some parts of Samoa, some parts of Fiji, and all of Tonga. That's what it's kind of shrunk to. Maybe some influence parts in Tahiti, but at its peak and stuff, we're talking about thousands of miles all the way to Hawaii, Rapa Nui, to Aotearoa, all the way east to even Vanuatu and all that, those areas at its peak. So everyone had their identity that time, and I think if we had been confronted with the Europeans earlier, I think it would have been a lot smoother. That's what I would think, Dua, because much smoother when you have a identity as a people, and also with being able to have one person to speak for all foreigners. But it came during this time. Well, Tuitonga has kind of shrunk its influence. I don't know. That's just my opinion of
Hmm.
why things kind of took up that way and what happened to and resulted to now. I don't know if you had anything there.
No, just one thing to add, just to kind of answer some of the criticism we get online. Some of our positions is that Tonga has the oldest, longest lasting, and active empire slash civilization. And
Yes,
some of the
sir.
people push back and they say, well, what islands does Tonga have now?
Hmm.
Let's just use this as an example right now, right? We have a Tu'ivava'u, we have a Tu'iha'apai. The Tu'itonga is in Tonga, like you said. There's social the empire has shrunk. It's unstable right now.
Hmm.
For all, and even there's I didn't know this until I listened to, was it Pilo Levu mentioned that Vava'u tried to be their own country. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they tried to break off and be part of Spain, right, with the
Oh, I
Catholics.
didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah.
Okay.
Vava'u made a little push to be their own nation.
I probably know why, because I know there was a lot of foreigners going to Bavau, and they were maybe being influenced, and they wanted to be speaking Spanish,
Yeah,
like South and Central America. Eh?
exactly. So to me, the argument you could make is the empire still exists because these outer islands, these other islands like Vava'u and Ha'apai, as we can see here, they were at this point they were functioning as their own little entities,
Mm,
right?
mm.
And there
Acting like
yeah,
every other island, like Haamoa, kind of being on its own, like Fiji, kind of Fiji chose to align with the Britain, and then eastern parts of Haamoa went to America, and western went to Germany. It's kind of like Lavau could have gone to Spain. So interesting. I didn't know
it
that, too.
is.
That's a good story. I don't think many of
Yeah,
our Polynesian people even know that. That
yeah.
was
And Lenny
one of
here
the
is
only.
saying, he says, yes, I heard that with the Spanish guy from Weimar. I was like, okay.
Okay. Malo Lenny, thank
Hmm.
you for joining us, man.
Malo,
Or
malo.
women.
And hey, Masi, what do you think about this? After the Tonga versus Samoa rugby match, the Empire is definitely not alive. Whee!
Hey, Black
Ay.
Arrow, you know what? The Empire's come back alive when we get rid of Christian Wolf. So we have to bear with it another year. It's gonna like come, just get rid of the guy right now. Get rid of him right now, and we'll take what we got. I feel
Mm.
like he's not a tremendous coaching skills what we've seen since 2017, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Let's get back to the video here.
All right.
because Finau was just a powerful chief. There were so many people around him, so many assassins, so many people who knew that if the Botoa attempted something on Finau, that the Botoa would die. So the Botoa went and became friends because they shared the same policy. They were more political, only the Botoa was a lot more ferocious. He was ready to kill. As soon as his father was killed and he knew who it was, which was Tupo Niwa, he vowed a promise that he would never drink coconut milk until he acted vengeance against the person who killed his
Oh,
father, which was Tupo Niwa. So now Tupo Toa is in the picture befriending
Coconut
Finau around
vengeance.
him a lot more often.
that's
Coconut
tough.
oath.
Toa would often
That's tough now
whisper
drinking any
things
new
to
mata
Finau, negative
until
comments
you
about
get
the
rid of your
character of
rival.
Tupo
Mhm.
That's
Niwa.
tough.
Now remember, it
That would
doesn't say
definitely motivate you.
specifically how Tupo Niwa and Finau are brothers. It just says that they're brothers. Whether it's the same father and different mothers, or different mothers and same father, typically you would take your first name would be the family name of your father. So Finau, his father was from the Finau family, where Tupo Niwa, his father was from the Tupo family. You have Finau Ulukalala, you had Finau Fisi, you had Finau Maufanga, which is Finau Ulukalala's dad. They put the family name before your own name. So Tupo Toa just means that his family name, he's from the Tupo family. Tupo Toa, Tupo Niwa, it sounds like they're related somehow. But because of Tuku Aho's oppressive nature, Tupo Niwa didn't like that and wanted to rid himself of the burden of contributing or sending tribute to Tonga more than they can handle. Tuku Aho was being very oppressive to the people by overburdening them with tributary things or tributary.
Taxes. Well,
Yeah,
taxes and taxes. And there's
and
even the stories are he cut the hands off of his cooks just so
yeah,
that he could mark
prove a
them
point.
as, yeah, my cooks only have one hand. Like, this guy was pretty rough. Like, he wasn't the nicest guy in the neighborhood.
Yes. Well, and I was gonna say, and it's man, that's sometimes what a general figure is doing, because that was the Tui Polu's job at that time, was to run the daily affairs. He had sole dominion on how he would approach that, because that was his job. While the Tui Tonga and Tui Polu was just more of a kind of more of a the religion with the Tui Tonga, and then the Tui looks like the Tui Hatagalawa was more of a feeling, right? Because it seemed like it was kind of observed and just taken in the just kind of observing things that was gonna be done, but also filled in with the vacancy with the Tuikang Polo title. But man, looks like is it Tuguaho? Was it Tuguaho that's cut the
Tugaho,
arms?
that Tuikanu Kopolu, yeah, the one that got
Tuikang Polo.
assassinated.
That's the yeah. However he chose to run his daily affairs is pretty ruthless.
And so what I'm hearing from you, Masi, is that Tuikanu Kopolu was uh, unhappy. He's like the worker at McDonald's who's angry. He's angry. He's got to do all the hard work, and instead of taking care of the customer, he's like throwing the fries at the customer, being rude to the customer rather than taking care of the people.
You know what? You know what, Dude? This is probably something, maybe, there's a lot of stories. We've kind of delved into it. Um, Especially with the Ha'amo, with the Talagay Faiki. Maybe he was, we've heard too, right? The religion is what Shashi, was it?
Ilayu.
Shashi Ilayu shared. It could have been a religion, but the most common thing is some kind of maybe of his oppressiveness to the Ha'amoa. And this is probably what Tu'aho was doing. The only difference is Tupo Niwa carried out with the assassination, right? There was no assassination with Talagay Faiki, because maybe there would have been you're talking about the Tuitonga being much more powerful during that time. But I mean, it's almost, if that almost seems like a thing that I can see Talagay Faiki doing something like that if the stories were true on how ruthless he was
Yeah.
of his time in Ha'amoa, doing something like that, and you're bound to get a reaction. Um, and the Ha'amoas did give that reaction to him, and the story goes that he applauded and came back. But the only difference is Tupo Niwa just did not like Tuwaho what he was doing, and he carried out all the way through and assassinated Tuwaho. So
Yeah.
that's what got me thinking. That's what got me thinking when we were kind of talking about Tupo Niwa is really not
And
liking Tuwaho.
and almost, Masi, it felt to me that this was something very personal. I don't know if
Mm.
Tuguaho did something directly to Tupo Niwa or Tupo Niwa's family, because you remember what he did when he came up to Tuguaho just before he killed him. He woke
He said
Tuguaho up.
to
He said,
know who he was.
yeah, I want you to know that it was me who killed you." So this was very personal, right? It
Mm.
wasn't like, oh, we just got to get rid of him because of pure politics, just so that we could open up the seat of power to see if there's some politics that could happen. And really, what this came down to, personal revenge on Tuaho, because he's like, hey,
Mm.
I just want you to know, you remember that thing that you did to me or to my family? It was me
Eh,
who sent you to Pulotu. So when you're
Yeah.
in Pulotu, you don't have to ask around, who exactly is it
Eh.
that killed me? It's like, oh, I'm here because Tupo Niwa killed me.
Mm. Okay. I think you're right. Could have been a personal thing, and then when you have personal issues with somebody, you find some alliances, and for this time he got Finau Ulukalala to kind of join him, because Finau is seeing some gain on that, and then yeah, so maybe yeah, it could have been a personal thing, and then just waiting for his time to pounce on it.
Yeah. And as we can see here, if you pay attention to the storyline, Ulkalala is very, very politically optimistic. He Did he directly lead the assassination? No. but he saw the assassination as an opportunity for him, right?
Yeah.
To cause a little chaos. And when there's a little chaos, there's a power grab. There's going to be some space that opens up. And so there's an opportunity for more
Yeah.
political power and influence. So,
So I
okay.
was just thinking.
Very
I'm just thinking. I have a quick thought here. So pretty much, Finau Ulukalala, they're all vying for that Tuikan Polo because that's what it seems like, that title, right?
Hmm.
If you're able to have the, he's thinking, let the assassination happen, less of a competition, and earlier for me to try to vie and build alliances to get to that title. That seems to be the, is that seem to be the play here for Finau Ulukalala here? Because it seems like he's trying to vie for the Tuikan Polo title.
It's interesting, and that may be the case. But one of the things that comes to mind when you ask that question, Masi, do you remember what happened to all the chiefs that were in Ha'apai and even some of them in Vava'u when Ulukalala and Tuponiwa come back after the assassination?
Hmm.
A bunch
No.
of them a bunch of them escape to Ha'amoa.
Ah.
And
Mm.
I'm wondering, it could be a kind of a combination of maybe vying for that power and influence, or maybe it was they felt that Ki'ifulahi influenced me Ha'amoa. I don't know.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know, I don't know if that's part of it, because I did find it interesting that when Ulukalala and Tuponiwa come back after they assassinate Tukuaho, that a bunch of the nobles in Vava'u and Ha'apai, they don't leave to Tongatapu, they leave and they go to Samoa,
Yeah.
which once again, this goes to show that Samoa was not some independent nation of its own. It was viewed as all
Part of,
parts
yeah.
of this empire, this national identity and family, and the same
Yes.
family. They were going back there. It's like one person leaving the village they're posted at to go to their father or to their mother's village when
Mm.
something goes bad at the village that they're leaving on. But it looks to be it could be a combination of dissatisfaction with the leadership. And we know that historically speaking, the Tuikanukupolu line was the most unstable, and it lacked leadership more than any other kingly line. It's a very challenging line. So
Yeah.
maybe it was them trying to get more political power for that Tuikanukupolu title. I don't know.
It seems like the Tuikang Polo was the easiest to get to, right? Because it seems like it was the newer title that was created, and seems like it was one of the titles that, if even if you had alliances with certain families that you're gonna have in their favor, you could get in, right? Because at the end of the day, the Tuitonga title holders and the people who are gonna inherit those titles and the Tui Hatagalawa, it seems like none of them didn't even want. So it seems like the Tuikan Boat title was open to everyone that was willing to kind
To
of
climb
take it,
up.
to climb
Yeah.
up, right? So
Yeah,
that's
you
what I'm
bring up a
thinking.
good point. No, you're bringing up a
Yeah,
good point, because the descendants of the Tu'iha Takalaua and the Tu'itonga, they did not really want to take the Tu'ikanukupolo line. That
yeah.
was one of the other challenges, was every time they tried to find someone, they would say, oh, no, 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 I would rather have no title than to go
And
be the
wait.
Tu'ikanukupolo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what it seems like for any Tongan that like who had some influence in their region, wherever they may came come up, and that next step to get the third highest title in all of Tonga and Polynesia, you would say, is
Mhm.
to get that Tuikanupolu, because it was easy to get to. Not easy, but it was the most reachable places to get to, compared to, and you're getting less rivals from the other two lines who did not want, they only did it if they did it out of necessity. From some of the oral histories we've heard, they only
Yeah,
did it if it was out of necessity. So
no, 100%. That's
right.
I appreciate that thought, Masi.
Mhm.
commodities from Bavau. Now Tupotoa's trash talking to Niwa to Finau, staying close to it. Tupotoa will tell Finau that he created some conspiracies. Basically, telling war stories to Finau. Yeah, I created this conspiracy and had some kind of rule over Vava'u at some point, and sharing stories of grandeur in military force, and basically being a tough guy and telling war stories to Finau to gain the favor of Finau, or to at least hint to him, which Finau was picking up those hints. Tupoto'a would tell Finau, when I used to run Vava'u, apparently he ran Vava'u at some point before Tuponiwa, but knowing that Tuponiwa was there because Vuna left during the time they went to go assassinate
Remember,
Tupuaho,
Vuna goes to
Tupo said,
Ha'amoa.
Vava'u flourished. It brought forth much wealth. Right? Not only did they have the best kava even back then, the land itself was wealthy with food, with crops, with everything that the land could provide. Tupoto'a was telling you now, I did it better. I ran it better than Tuponiwa. Tuponiwa's not doing well, and
I think that's an important concept for people to understand, right?
Mm.
The ancient Tongan political structure, there were people moving around into titles, into roles all the time, right? Like we talked about some of the heirs of the Tu'iha Takalaua before
Yeah.
they inherited the Tu'iha Takalaua. If they were willing to be humble enough and in as out of duty to the family, they would go and be the Tu'ikan Kupolu while they
Mm.
waited for their inheritance of the Tu'iha Takalaua line. And just to see here that you see Tupo To'a, maybe his dad, the Tu'ikan Kupolu, told him for a few years, go and be the governor of Vava'u. And then
Yeah.
at some point, switched him out with Vuna, right? And
Yeah.
then because Vuna runs away to Samoa when the assassination happens, Tupo Niwa, the brother of Ulkalala, is now
Yeah.
the governor of Vava'u. So this is a very dynamic, and this is something that wasn't new in the Polynesian Empire, because the Tu'itonga would tell the Lemaki family from Ha'amoa, I need you guys to go to Fiji because
Yeah.
Fiji is where the wood is. Maybe we need to really uh, infuse a large number of ships to the fleet. So you
Yeah.
need to go there. And so there were a lot of people with different skill sets and leadership that were moved around.
Mm. Nice.
remember that he didn't pay much, or he didn't pay full tribute to Duaho, which makes you look bad, Finau. Dupotoa is trying to stroke Finau a little bit to get him on his side. Dupotoa would often remind Finau, remember, Dupo Niwa, he's very treacherous. He continued to advise you to take chances and go attack Tonga often. He really isn't of Tonga or of the heart of Tonga. Even though he won the hearts of the people in Vava'u, and Vava'u loves him and made him chief, and they want him to be their leader, he keeps on having conspiracies about Tonga to attack Tonga. So Tupotoa is getting Finau to really think about the policy. They're trying to share policy, we're on the same team as far as politics. Tuponiwa isn't good for Tonga, and it's probably a good idea for us to take him out. Tupotoa was now bold enough to say, let's take out Tuponiwa.
And this
Finau's brother.
this goes
Finau
along
finally gives
with
in.
what you
But
were
remember
saying,
there,
Masi. Why is he trying to entice Ulkalala with what Tonga thinks? Because
Mm.
it seems like Ulkalala wants to have more influence in Tonga, on
Yeah.
Tonga Tapu, right? Because
Yeah.
he's got the influence in Ha'apai and Vava'u. He's not gonna take over the Tu'i Hatakalaua. He's not gonna take over the Tu'i Tonga, but the seat of influence that he probably has within his grasp is the Tu'ikan Kupolu title.
Yes, and they don't say Tonga Aiki for no reason. The only way to be a Aiki is in Tonga Aiki, Tonga Tapu, and Urukalala is just trying to maneuver to get there, and that's why he always kind of, Nuku'alofa was a popular spot for Urukalala because it seems like that was an easy place for him to kind of just cause a rise and try to get into make some influence. But they say Tonga Aiki because that's where all the Aikis live
Yeah,
on the main island. So, and he was always, kind of always on the outskirts, but he had a strong military, and he Ukalala was just very smart on just applying Western technologies to kind of gain that momentum to make a influence. And obviously, his engagement with Tupo Toa is, part of that. What's the next step now that Tuao
Vava'u
has
and
passed
Ha'apai.
away?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, and really the long-term political move for the Ulukalala line is you become the Tuikan Kupolo, and then you try to marry into the Tui Hatakalawa and to the Tui
Yeah,
Tonga lines. And
yeah,
that's because it comes down to what you said. It's all about the Aki, it's the blood.
yeah.
And if you can be in a position on Tonga Tapu of influence, you have a higher probability of marrying into those lines to increase your Aki. Aki is not something you go and win your Aki in a battle.
Yeah.
It's through political marriages, right?
Yes.
It's in bloodlines that you increase your Aki.
And Urukalala seems to have the skill to get to that position, to be enough of a high rank position to be able to have an offspring to get and marry an Aki from the other ones, or get have enough influence to marry a Aki from the Tuihatalawa family or the Tuitonga family, kind of like what you said, because it's through blood. Because military can only get you so far, but Aki is just considered the genealogies of your ancestors of Aki class that
Yes.
runs through your blood, right?
Yeah. And you can't win that in battle. You can't
Mm.
the only way to get it is through
Wealth,
wealth.
money, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and getting into the bloodlines. All right.
They're very tricky and conniving because now Finau is agreeing with the Potoa. Okay, I guess we can do this, but we shouldn't do it right now. Let's wait for a future date where it's a good time for whatever reason, whether it's to convince the people that Tupo Niwa was a bad guy or whatever it is. Vava'u's not going to turn their back against Tupo Niwa. They love him. Killing Tuguaho was the best thing for them because now it took the burden off of overpaying tribute to Tuaho. Tupotoa had other plans. He had now convinced Finau that yeah, it's a good idea. So Finau kind of half, okay, all right, not started at all. Mariner was probably surprised that he didn't get up and immediately, what, you want to kill my brother? What's going on? Mariner did sense that, okay, he's agreeing, kind of agreeing, but he's postponing it. Let's do it at a later time, at a better time, at a more opportune moment.
Politically
Then I'll
very
help
savvy,
you.
this
Finau was
guy.
written about.
Tua, what does this remind you of? It reminds me of the conversation and planning of killing Captain Cook. Not right
Yeah.
now. We'll keep waiting. Eh?
Yeah.
It's almost like a deja vu. These guys are having to plan when to execute a plan to get rid of Tipo Niwa in Vavao. Almost like I think this is the kind of conversations they were having with other chiefs during the in Ha'apai and other ones, but it wasn't the time to kill Captain Cook yet. But I don't know. I
Yes.
just find that funny.
No, it's timing. Doing the right
Yeah.
thing at the wrong time gets you a negative outcome.
Mm,
Doing the
yeah.
right thing at the right time. This is where being politically savvy is important, right? It's
Yes.
not just about removing your opponent, it's how you remove your opponent is very important, right? And
Yeah.
here's a question here, Masi, if you want to read out this from Eddie. Malo, Eddie.
Hey, what's up, Eddie? Eddie Tamoy Peao Jabrak. Jabrak. How come Ulukalala couldn't create himself to be the Tui Ha'apai? Am I wrong? The only one that called himself that was Taufahau. Tua, what's your thoughts to that question of Eddie?
No, I from what we understand, Ulkalala did call himself the Tui Ha'apai, and it's a self-proclaimed. Like the Tui Ha'apai is not necessarily the term Tui from our understanding is to really solidify it as a traditional and Aki title. It has to be given by someone of Aki. Like the Tui Tonga made the Tui Hatakalaua. What made the Tui Hatakalaua legitimate is that it got its title from the Aki lines. The Tui Ha'apai and the Tui Vava'u, for all intents and purposes, were self-proclaimed. That
Correct.
was Ulukalala calling himself, but that's why it only had influence in Ha'apai or Vava'u. It really didn't have any
Mm,
influence in on Tonga Tapu because it didn't come from the higher kingly lines. Now, the Tuikan Kupolu had influence in Ha'apai and Vava'u because it came from the Tui Tongas installing the Tui Hatakalaua and the Tui Tonga approving the Tui Kanukupolu being created, because from our understanding, the Tui Ha'apai was never created by
it was
the Tui
self-proclaimed.
Kanukupolu or the Tui Hatakalaua or the Tui Tonga. It was whoever was the most powerful politically,
Yes.
typically called themselves the
Militarily
Tui
too.
Ha'apai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I would just throw this out there to the Maria Toa was a lot more achy than the Tui Tonga and the Tui, not Tui Tonga, the Tui Ha'apai and Tui Vava'u, because that was of a given title, would you say, because of a huge event that was created in Samoa? Because it came
Well,
from a Tui Tonga? What's your thoughts on that?
yes,
Because that was such a huge event, and he said Maria Toa, and that was big enough that created the Maria Toa title because it came from the saying of a significant like a significant event in the island of Savai and Upolu. Or what do you think? I don't know. I'm just thinking, like, because we talk about Aiki and regarding rank status. Would you say the Maria Toa had more probably of a significant influence compared to the Tui Vava'u and Tui Ha'apai? Because that was just literally just military and self-proclaimed. But this is Maria Toa is actually from an event that came out of an encounter with the Tui Tonga. I don't know. What's your thoughts
yeah.
there?
For me personally, it was in a sense it was self-proclaimed because the Tuitonga said something and then they said we're gonna name it after that. What really
Oh, okay.
solidified or gave the Marietoa line some legitimacy is within one generation, who did they marry? The Tuitonga's daughter.
Yes. So
Within one generation. So that's really, and that's what really, and in our, we haven't published it as independent episodes yet on the podcast, but in our lives, previous lives that we've had in Ha'amoa, Aiki blood was a big deal in Ha'amoa as well,
yes.
right? That's why
Yes.
some of the most Aiki chiefs wouldn't be tattooed because they said they had the Aiki
Even
blood and it didn't want to be spilt.
even in Ha'amoa, and I think a lot of Samoans don't know that too. That getting the full tattoo, the even the highest chiefs there were not tattooed because it was forbidden to shed their blood. So scared, right, Tua? So
Yeah,
yeah, no, that's interesting. We're just having a dialogue. It just came to my mind. I just thought, hey, I'll just
yeah.
share that. But you're
This is
right.
why we have these conversations. You got to
But
throw it
you're
out.
right in that sense. But I was thinking, it's just kind of like that political theory. The our Ha'amoa friends, because of that event, it's self-proclaimed Maria Toa, but it was they got it high enough, obviously, that they had, you know, they married the Tuitonga's what daughter or the
The
Tuitonga's
dude daughter. Yeah,
granddaughter, and look, that's where that kind of Iggy comes from. So yeah, just kind of sharing things out there, just seeing how things are going. But
no, 100%.
Out in Captain Cook's, one of Captain Cook's men in the 1700s, and they described him to be 25 years old, tall, handsome young man. This is Kalala in the 70s, 70s. Remember, we're in the 1805s. But one of Captain Cook's men wrote and actually drew a picture of Finau. Said that he looked like a real Indian warrior. Tall, handsome, brave, very active, and being that Finau was a general of the King of Tonga in the 1700s, it was fitting the description they gave him because he was the general of the military in Ha'apai and the west side of Tonga in his 20s. In those times in the 1770s and that era, anytime Tonga went to war, Finau Ulukalala was the general of the military, of the army back then. It says that the men were attached to him. So he was a people person. He knew how to speak. He knew how to sound brave. He knew how to look ferocious and look like a warrior, and had people want to follow and fight with him, or at least fight for him. It was written that he was the most popular man on all the islands in those days. The writer also said that his behavior, his attributes contributed to how much of a politician he truly was, because he did seek power. Eventually, he did look at it as the corporate ladder. He did want to eventually be king. He did a lot of things for selfish reasons. So although he was a great guy, people loved him and were attached to him because of his personable nature, they also sensed that he was
Ambitious.
over
yeah,
ambitious, maybe
There we go.
overzealous
There we go.
to become powerful someday. And they can see in some of his decision makings showed how selfish he actually was to some point or to some degree. Just on behavior alone, the writer of this book from the 1770s, who wrote and drew about Finau Kalala, knew that this person, this type of personality or this characteristic of this guy will never be
Bone
forgotten.
structure.
The people will have stories about him because of what a great man he is, how the people love him, how his military forces were attached to him and loved his personality and characteristics, which from 1770s on to when he met Mariner in 1804, 1805 to 2024. He was right about that. Mariner described, at this time, he's in his 50s, Mariner described Finau Kalala as a seasoned politician. Although people may bring conspiracies to him, he was very careful about who he told and shared things with. But at the same time, he did want to further his career in politics, further his career in leadership and power, that he allowed things to happen, even if it was against his brother, Tuponiwa, if it put him into the higher position.
I think you're right,
based
Masi.
on
This
his
was all
own
about
ambitions, which
causing
means
chaos for the
his end
Tucanco
goal
Polo to see
is
if he
to
could
rule
find a
Hong
way
Kong.
there.
He was
Slip
very
in,
cunning
slip
about
in.
who he placed
Put him in
where,
position.
who he placed to do what, just so that they don't fully know his intentions, giving the people what they want to hear, just like a politician, for the benefit or the good of the people, the greater good, if it meant aspiring him higher through these actions or through these decisions. Always thinking, always cunning. His brother, on the other hand, Tuponiwa, Mariner described him as a free spirit. He didn't have what Finau had. He wasn't as cunning, not intentionally. He had no ambitions to succeed any throne. He just wanted freedom for his people, for himself, and his family.
Man
so
of the
plan
people.
to take out Tupuaho, Tuponiwa just wanted liberty. He only wanted to be free. He had no ambitions to become anything else. Let's just take Tupuaho out because he's taking away our freedoms. He's burdening us. Where Finau, on the other hand, was thinking, well, if Tuponiwa wants to take out Tupuaho, that'll clear up a spot for me. So they had different intentions, two mentalities.
Yeah.
Tuponiwa would also often tell Mariner, he felt bad. I feel bad that as I took out Tupuaho, I felt bad that all the beautiful women there, his wives and attendants, had to die too. Boniwa actually felt guilty about that. But at the same time, being that it's part of the custom that if you're going to kill somebody, make sure you take out his whole family, just in case anybody wants to turn around and come back at you. Boniwa just often mentions to Mariner, yeah, I felt bad about that all those people had to die. But at the same
Niwa
time,
seems like really a man of the people and just wanted
Mm,
to be free. And you have Ulkalala, who's like, he's moving the pawns and just waiting for the right time, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. No,
for
and
the freedom
I
of
mean, I was just gonna say that it, a lot of during this time. Remember, the Tuican Polu has a lot of imports from Ha'amoa, so that's why when we talk about when this assassination happened, a lot of the ones people who are just because of the chaos happening, they went to Hahake and sought refuge there under the Tuihatagalawa and the Tuitonga, and some of them, like what you said, in the other islands of Ha'apai and Mava'u, that were not part of this assassination, kind of fled to Ha'amo, because you're talking about many since the beginning of the Tui Karupolu of Samoans from Upolu and Savai'i that have been coming for many years. So they were just very comfortable, just like another Ha'apai or in
Another
Hahake
island in
side,
the
another
empire.
island. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
my people, for the liberty of us living, being liberated from oppression. It had to happen. So Tuponiwa has a good heart. He has good intentions. He knew what war was when it was necessary. Assassination was necessary. War was necessary so that his people can be free. His family can be free. And we know that he did feel some kind of guilt because after he killed Tuaho, after he struck him with the axe, he picked up a kid, Tuaho's kid. He said it was probably 2 or 3 years old. Picked him up and took him with him. People would often tell Tuponiwa that Finau Ulkalala is not your friend. As treacherous as he is, he has his ambitions and aspirations. Be careful around him. Be armed when you're around him. Tuponiwa would respond by, oh no, he's my brother. He's my high chief. And if he at any point in time, thinks that it's beneficial that I lose my life, it's better, right? It's better that he takes my life than for him to think
Like
that
a
I'm living
samurai.
planning his assassination. I'm
Mm.
going to live free of my conscience is free. I'm guiltless as it pertains to Finau because he's my brother. He should have no worries or concerns about me conspiring to do something against him, which A lot of people thought that's not fair that a good man should die, or a good man should have to be careful around his own brother, knowing that Finau Galala may be your brother, but he has other plans, and you may be the sacrifice to get there. And he says, besides, I'm not going to arm myself against him. He has power, and the government and the bigger picture is it's better for us all. If he thinks that my life should end, then so be it. That's the peaceful nature of Tupo Niwa. That's the innocent or the free and liberated mind of Tupo Niwa. His allegiance to Tonga,
Oh,
or at
Niwa is
least to Vava'u.
William
His
Wallace
allegiance.
of Scotland.
Yes.
That's what I'm
Well,
thinking.
those kind of mentalities are always fascinating to me, Mussy,
Mm,
because the only way, or at least from my perspective, the only way a guy like Tupo Niwa and so forth could have that kind of mentality is if you believe in an afterlife, right?
mm,
Like you have to have a very strong faith and understanding that dying here is not the end of it. Because if you really thought, oh, when I die here, that's it,
yeah.
then you would be just like how Ulkalala is thinking. Well, I gotta take as much as I can now because this is
Now,
it, right?
yeah.
Once this life's done, and it would be fascinating for me to kind of understand what Tupo Niwa's thoughts were of Pulotu, right? And what
Mm,
it was like in Pulotu and what was waiting for him on the other side. Because to me, that's the only way you can explain someone to be like, oh, if it's meant for me to be done here, then it's fine
yeah.
because I'll just go to the other side and continue. Or at least that's how I
Right.
would think. I don't know what your thoughts.
No, no. Just to add on, because later on in the story, there is some glimpse there with Ulkalala having like maybe not a high appreciation of some priests of like some the religion and stuff. I don't know, maybe because of it's gone different from the older religion, but it seems like he really didn't have a higher, uh let's just say, what is it, respect for the some of the religious priests. That's what it seems like, because I think there's a part later on with his daughter being sick or something, and he asked the priest to do whatever, and the priest didn't do it, and then he didn't like what the priest told him, that it's because of something. Like he seems like he was always kind of fighting back against some of the religious priests.
Mm,
It fits with what you were saying. He was just thinking of the now, and a lot of his effort was going in the world of Earth, what he wanted to achieve, because it seems like maybe he did with Pulotu what was gonna go off, but it seems like he was worried about right now. That's what it seems like. I don't know. I'm just kind
yeah,
of
no, that's fair. I
speaking
mean,
here.
they're totally two different mindsets, you
Yeah.
know. So it's kind of interesting just to kind of think through what they could have been thinking.
Mm.
To his brother, he was loyal, most loyal to him, his family, and the freedom of his people, but also loyal to the powers that be. And those powers that be happen to be his brother. Tuponiwa is now in Lifuka. Him and his military is in Lifuka. They haven't even gone back to Vava'u yet. Tuponiwa is the high chief in Vava'u. They're waiting around to see when Finau is going to pretty much releases them and tells them, okay, you guys can go back to Vava'u. Remember, they're in Nugalofa. They stopped fighting in Pakaimotu, and they're in Luifuka. The Hapai people are in Hapai. The Vava'u guys with Tuponiwa are now in Lifuka, waiting for orders to return. Tupo To'a finds this as an opportunity to kill Tupo Niwa against Finau's orders, against his advice. Tupo To'a thinks, oh, while they're still here in Hapai, before they even get to Vava'u, I'm going to take out Tupo Niwa. Eventually, Tupo To'a convinces Finau, all right, I'm taking Tupo Niwa out now. Finau eventually says, okay, if you're going to do it anyway, if you find this the most opportune moment, if this is the best opportunity you have to do it, before he goes to Vava'u amongst all his warriors and chiefs that are there, he now pretty much washes his hands of it, or at least approves it to some measure.
Crazy.
Tupo finally gets his time. He has waited long enough, and he feels like he's wasted enough time, or at least he's spent enough time waiting, finding the opportune moment. This is the time, which means Tupo To'a had been around Tupo Niwa, but finds this the best opportunity. because now he has Finau on his side, and now they're in Lifuka. They're not even in Vavahu, so now's the time to kill him. Finau basically gives him the nod, so not fully in with the plan, but at the same time not denying it, semi-approving. Basically
Tua, I
trying to
know the
hide the
word.
fact that he's
Tua, I know the Tongan word. What Finau used to tell to Potoa, this is the time when they had discussion. Kokoibe.
Iyo,
Not
kay
a
tinihan ko.
iyo. Kokoibe.
Koko.
Kokoibe.
Yeah,
Kokoibe. Not a
yeah.
yes, not a
Not a
no,
no.
but it's kind of kokoibe.
Plausible deniability, right?
Iyo.
He can honestly say, I didn't tell him to kill Tuponiwa.
Iyo.
Yeah, like you said, Kokoipe.
Kokoibe.
Yeah, hape holoto, hape
Yeah.
holokaw.
You say, that's I was just funny when he was going through that, and it just made me think of just our current interactions as Tonga of today, and certain people who are not want to do something or don't agree fully of something, but they don't want to directly because we all know it's very indirect of how Tongans do things today. If it's a very direct, that means they're all in and that's very happy. But someone's like, I don't know, go a bit. That's what I think. That's what the phrase Fina Ulkalala gave to Potoa to do his plan. I don't know.
His
I just
plan.
thought I'd just share
No,
that.
it is. It's just, I mean, this guy was politically, this guy was a mastermind.
Mm,
Like he he would never force his hand, right? He would always just wait for the perfect moment. He would never try to force it. And you can see from the guys around him, they're not that politically patient
mm,
like Ulkalala is. Like you said, he didn't say no, he didn't say yes. So whatever happens, he can say wasn't me. You know what I
eh,
mean? Even though everyone around him will know, yeah, there's no way that he would have done it without Ulkalala saying at the very least he wasn't going to push back
mm,
against it.
mm,
allowing it, absolutely, go do it, but doesn't want to show anybody or show that, oh yeah, he's in on it, right? It's kind of like how the mobsters do it. Carlo Gambino, how he did it. If anybody brought a murder to him, should we whack this guy amongst the family, in the family? He never said anything. It was basically a nod, like, if you can line up reasons, the best reasons that it's best for the family and best for the business inside of the mob. The old mobsters never said stuff. They weren't like John Gotti, who got on camera and told and made stories and everybody saw it. Nah, Carlo Gambino was one of the OGs. If you brought a reason to murder somebody in the family, he would just give a simple nod like this,
mhm.
which is basically what
Kokoibe.
Finau did. He
Kokoipe.
didn't want to look like he was in on it, the conspiracy, but also approved of it by just giving Tupoto'a the nod. He also didn't want to be known and labeled by anybody that he would, a king, be responsible for murdering a good man. Everybody liked Tuponiua. Vava'u loved Tuponiua. Tupoto'a, on the other hand, just hated him because he killed his dad, even though he's a son of an attendant, not even a wife. But that's the mind of Tupoto'a, and Finau wasn't going to stop. A few days later, Finau asked Mariner to accompany him. They went to a place called Mahina Fekite just before sunset. So maybe an hour before sunset, they go to this place, 3/4 of a mile off where he lived. Finau told Mariner, I gotta go talk to this guy named Toke Hemwana about some political stuff. Let's go over there and talk to him. So Mariner and one of Finau's daughters accompanies Finau to go to Mahina Fekite to talk to this guy, Toke Hemwana. Finau usually carries with him a whaling knife. It's almost like a halepelu. It's 2 feet long, 3 inches wide. Mariner kind of described it and noticed that Finau isn't grabbing his knife. So Mariner asked, you want me to carry your knife for you? And Finau says, no, it's okay. Finau said, I have no need for it. We're good. Let's just go.
I have to have
Mariner
an
obviously
excuse
is
why I
used to him
couldn't fight.
carrying a knife, which means he was always prepared. So they were always all armed. Even though they're on the same island and whatever it is they're doing, they continue to stay armed, which obviously Mariner thought it was a habit. Right? Became a habit. And so Mariner said, oh, you forgot your knife. Want me to carry it for you? The plan is starting to go into motion. Mariner mentions that when you walk, it's customary when you walk, you're walking in a line, one behind another, from the highest ranking to the lowest. And I can see that because when we were kids in Tonga, that's how we walked. If we were walking on the road, especially, if there's any cars that come by, and you walk and you end up walking the line, the older kid is always up front and it goes down to the youngest. You will never let the younger guys lead any of the older kids. And if there's a younger kid in front of one of the older kids, he would grab him, put him behind him. I have no idea why that is, but it's interesting how that's came naturally to us anyway. Like, you don't walk in front of the older guy would walk in front and in line, in ranking of age for us. Apparently here, Mariner's talking about they walk in order in line based on ranking. And I guess in a younger generation, that's what it is. Your ranking is your age. Your age is your ranking. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So as it was Finau's daughter and him, it went Finau's daughter, and then he walked behind them in a line. As they're walking, there's a pool of water, big enough for people to go in, and so he went in and started to bathe into this pool of water, and it feels like it was, nonchalantly, go and tell Tupo Niwa to come and join me. Come here. So he sent for Tupo Niwa to come. Remember, Finau doesn't have his knife, so the plan is already in motion. Perhaps, to me, it would make it look like it's casual, right? He gets into the water, he bathes. Hey, tanga Tupo Niwa hange. Tell Tupo Niwa to come real quick, I want to talk to him. And then when Tupo Niwa shows up, that's when Finau finishes bathing and comes out of the water. And this gives it a more sign that, he's not armed. He's just come out of bathing. It looks casual. Here, let's go over here to Tokehemwana's house real quick. Let's go talk to him about politics. So he's setting it up so that Tupo Niwa feels comfortable and it just feels casual, which is a great way to prepare to freaking assassinate somebody. Make them feel comfortable. No different from mobsters who say, hey, let's take a ride right up front. Or, hey, come over for dinner. And you walk into a room and don't walk out. But they feel comfortable. So Tupo Niwa shows up and they all start walking. Finau talking with Tupo Niwa, casual conversation, no weapon, Mariner behind them, and they're just walking. Remember, the homes have fencing around it, right? And inside the fencing were a few houses. Typically, the wives stay in the houses with their own children, and then there's a main house. Well, Finau and his daughter enters into the fencing, and Mariner goes into a different house on the outside of the fencing with one of the daughter's attendants, and they just hang out there and in conversation, and they start talking. Not long after they're sitting in this house with Tokehemwana, Tupo To'a comes in, he's among them, and then a little bit shortly after, he gets up and he leaves. 4 of Tupo To'a's men, they start preparing a canoe. They get the sails and the mast and they start mounting it onto a canoe and getting it ready. Mariner hears some of the women, what are you guys doing? What are you guys, it's right before the sun goes down. What are you guys doing? These 4 of Tupo To'a's guys tell him, Tupo To'a just told us to get one ready. The real reason why they wanted to get it ready, because Tupo To'a told them, all right, if this doesn't happen, if I don't actually assassinate Tupo Niwa and it doesn't happen, I'm going to need a getaway vehicle or a getaway canoe. That's why they had to prepare.
Getaway car.
So all this is in preparation, and now the plan is set. Finau brings Tupo Niwa to Tokehemwana's house. They're sitting there. Tupo To'a comes in for a little bit, whatever he says. So he came in and saw Tupo Niwa. He saw Finau, saw them there. It's ready. Then he gets up and he leaves, and he has 4 guys come prepare a canoe for him. All this is right before he's planning his assassination, or the assassination of Tupo Niwa at this point. After a couple hours, Finau he leaves, and he's followed by Tupo Niwa and Finau's daughter. Remember, Mariner's in a house with one of the daughter's attendants on the outer fencing, hanging out, chilling, talking. It was nighttime, but the moon lit their way, and they start to go back. They depart. And at this point, it's Finau and Tupo and the daughter, and then Mariner, and then the attendant last. The daughter's attendant is behind Mariner. As soon as they come out to leave, and they're out beyond the fencing, and they turn the corner to leave, Tupo To'a and his 4 guys that he got to prepare the canoe, they jump out and they attack Tupo Niwa. They have clubs and they have weapons, and they come out, and one of them swings to hit him on the head, misses, and hits him on the shoulder. As he ducks and he's hitting the shoulder and he's going down, or he's ducking, he exclaims to Finau, "Oya we Finau te umate." This is what Mariner actually writes down he heard Tupo Niwa say as he's standing behind them, walking, following them. Tupo Niwa exclaims to Finau, Oyawe Finau de Mate. Tuponiwa backs up into the fence, and now he has his back against the fence. Finau was a few steps ahead of Tuponiwa, and now they have Tuponiwa trapped up against the fence. Finau turns around, and Mariner notices that he's not truly attempting. It's like, hold me back type thing, but it doesn't really look like he's coming to try to help. And Finau exclaims out loud, Oyawe seuke ko mate tangata, which in Mariner's translation it said he meant, alas, this noble man has been killed. While Finau is, being pretended held, he's being pretend like he's coming to help, he already knows the plan. The Potoa's assistants or his helpers come and they grab Finau and they pull him into the fencing of the house that they were just at. While Tuponiwa's up against the fence fighting for his life. Finau's yelling out words to make it look like and sound like he wants to help and he's trying to help. But Mariner sees that.
And in front of the homes, and he's making it loud so people can hear.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's all a ploy.
Yeah,
It's all a ploy.
it's all
And
for
it's
show.
and these politics are happening even in today's society. No matter how modern we are, but these are the same tactics that are still being applied into to today's world of politics, government, and all of that kind of stuff.
No, and like you're saying, and in the more first world, it may not be. Sometimes it is assassination, but sometimes it is destroy a person's
Defamation,
livelihood.
character, or
Yes,
whatever it may be.
assassination, character assassination. Deplatforming,
Yes,
debanking, right?
canceling, cancel culture.
Canceling. There's more ways to quote unquote assassinate rather than just
Yeah,
physical.
yeah.
And it's dangerous. And sometimes the people who are saying that they tried to help, sometimes they're not so innocent.
Mm,
You can't just take what seems to be the obvious anymore. You have to be very thoughtful and prayerful, in my opinion. This is why you need the spirit to be with you. But right off the bat, William Mariner already knows what's going on, right? Like, how is this strong, powerful man all of a sudden can't do nothing?
yeah, yeah,
He's pretending to be held back and held down. And he's yelling and exclaiming that, oh, he's dying, he's dead, he's whatever. So Finau didn't accidentally leave his knife. Mariner saw it a habit for him to take his knife everywhere, asked if he wanted to carry it for him. Finau said, nah, I don't need it, I'm not going to need it. He didn't need it because he
He
wasn't
didn't
part of
want
the
it.
plan. Or at least not having his knife was part of his plan, so that he doesn't have a reason to help. This gives you more insight of how treacherous a man Finau was when he put his ambitions and his aspirations over his own brother. Now his brother's up against the fence being beat down. Some other Tupoto'a's friends come and grab Finau to make it look like they're holding him back and pull him into the fencing while they get Tupoto'a. Mariner at this time is backed up. There's nothing he can do. He's not armed either. The attendant was behind him. Now they're just watching Tuponiwa get beat down, basically assassinated. Mariner said that he was blocking off some of the blows of the clubs. They were beating him and beating him. He was blocking off the phone. He was blocking with his hands and his arms. And Mariner said that they did it until they broke his hands, and they did it until they broke his arms to the point where he couldn't lift his arms anymore. And finally, Tupoto'a lifted the final blow to his head and hit him. And he said he hit him on his head and he kind of staggered. Tupoto'a backed up again and freaking hit him on the head again and split him, and he went down. And they continued to hit him. As long as he showed life, they kept on beating him
Oh, Yahweh.
Oh,
until he
oh,
was.
So they were
Samoan
doing the
style.
Samoan rules. This is the Samoan rules in real life.
Yes. Don't show any movement, any little, moving of pinky or whatever. You're still alive. We're gonna keep hitting you.
Mm. Now we see that this is when the Samoan rules are implemented here.
Yeah.
Absolutely completely dead. And that ends the days of Tuponiwa.
Sad.
Great, loving,
Yeah.
peace-loving, people-loving, family-loving, Tonga-loving chief. His loyalty to his brother, for him not to have known or believed that he needed weapons to protect himself, to his brother. Also his loyalty to his brother as the king, knowing that if he does need to be whacked or taken out, he was
So be
willing
it.
to do so for his brother. But never in a million years did he think that his brother was going to help plan his assassination. The Botoa has finally come to this point
And
in the
it's
story,
crazy
and
because that saying
that
still exists
concludes
today.
the
Oh,
life of
Yahweh,
Tupo
Kwawente
Niwa
Umate.
at the hands
Yeah.
of the Botoa,
That's a
with the
very common
assistance
saying
of his
amongst
brother Finau
Tongan people when you
At this time, a
fear
young warrior
you're in a
named
bad
Latu
spot.
Ila runs up
Yeah.
and sees them. They have beat him. Runs up, and Latu Ila has suspicion that Tupo Niwa conspired against Latu Ila's own father to kill him. His father is dead, Latu Ila's. So Latu Ila rolls up with his club, and he starts beating Tupo Niwa after he was dead. Starts beating him in vengeance. You killed my father. It's long enough that you lived under the luxury of a va'u. It's time for you to die. So Latu Ila. So
Crazy.
that kind of tells you
Mm.
that Tupo Niwa himself had his own conspiracies, and people around him, Latu Ila, for instance, had conspiracies against Tupo Niwa also. Not only Tupo Niwa, but I'm sure other chiefs who have conspired the murder of other people. It seems like they lived in peace.
Now you can air.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Anything while we go through this commercial break, must.
Um. No, I mean it's we're seeing very detailed event, especially for those who are very close connected to Ha'apai and to these families of some of the descendants of what's actually happening, which is either whichever side you're from is was the important event in Italian history recorded by William Mariner, which is the awesome insight that we get to see. So I just find it very interesting, and yeah, man, that's just my thoughts there, Tua. Unless you have anything else.
No, it's very interesting to me because with that last guy coming in and joining in, even though Tupo Niwa is basically dead, right, and clubbing
Yeah.
him because he believes. What this tells me or gives me the idea is Ulkalala may have had pressures from other chiefs that they weren't happy with Tupo Niwa. So he sees that this is a multi-reason assassination, right? This could have been to consolidate some of the chiefs within Ha'apai, right? And people who may have been not so happy with Tupo Niwa. It would have settled them, made them calm down and not have a reason to be upset with Ulkalala. But then it also eliminates a rival, a potential rival, right? In his brother. So this is, dude, this Ulkalala guy, I don't like, this guy was politically speaking very ambitious and was willing to sacrifice anything to achieve his goal.
Was Tupo Niwa and Ulkalala, were they brothers, like half brothers, or were they real blood
It-
brothers from
It's
mother same father?
I don't know the exact details. He kind of
Mm,
shares that it's from what Lolo is sharing that they could have probably come from different moms. Where
okay.
Finau has the Finau name because of that side, and then Tupo Niwa, maybe the mom was from a Tupo side, maybe a
Oh,
distant relative of Tupo Toa, right?
okay. Mm,
So there is a chance that Tupo Toa and Tupo Niwa are I mean they're all related to some extent.
correct.
So okay.
Always remembered who, under suspicion of conspiracy, was killing who in this time. So he's yelling, "You killed my father. You murdered my father." And he's yelling and he's telling him, "I would have done this long time ago if I had help from other people." But nobody wanted to take the chance.
Not one of those, huh? We
No,
all
one
know
of
one of
those.
those guys.
Not the ones that when there's a group fight and they finally join the fight when there's a group fight, but when it's one on one, he's like, ah, never mind. I don't want to fight today.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of those ones.
Hey,
Eh?
one of those.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's always one of those. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He just jump in there so he can go sit down and he say, oh yeah, wow na hanga tamate ya. Natupo niwa. Be like tell his people, say, yeah, I was the guy. It's my
Yeah,
blow. When Tupo Toa hit him, he wasn't gone all the way. But
I
when I
made sure.
came, I came because I was still under the Samoan rules. I came and he was doing this.
I saw the pinky move and he was still alive, and I made sure nothing moved. I hit his hand, I hit his toes, I hit everything. Yeah,
See, and you can see the location was very, very specific. It had to be by the houses because there's people there. Because a lot of this stuff is for show, right? Ulukalala is saying, "Oh my gosh, a noble man is dying.
Yes.
Oh, blah, blah, hold me back." Then you have this guy who shows up after. "You killed my father. I would have done this long time ago." Blah blah. It's like this is all for show, and unfortunately, from what we understand, who knows? Maybe Tupo Niwa was planning his own stuff. I don't know, but at least from what we see so far, Tupo Niwa didn't seem to have that political ambition.
Yeah, he seemed like he was just a guy of just loyal, and he really. I'm sure. To me, I'm sure he's like what he did mention hearing stuff about not trusting Urukalala and stuff and all these kind of things. And my man was just he was just a loyal dude, and many people are like that, even though they almost like a blind loyalty and stuff because people just knew because Ulukalala was not going to give him that same energy of loyalty back to Poniwa. So but
regardless,
it is what it is. Yeah.
Of taking out a higher chief, just like nobody down below in the mob would want to take out a boss because they're not going to get the help of soldiers or other people not to take down a boss. But now was his opportunity to yell it out and get it all out while Tuponiwa was down and dead. So this guy was a follower. This Latu Ila guy was the follower of Tupotoa. So he's always had that sentiment. He's always been on that side. He was always supportive of Tupotoa, wanting to kill Tuponiwa. He's one of the Botoas guys. While in the heat of the moment, he's saying, "I was waiting for this day. I'm enjoying seeing this. Murdered my father, and now it's time to pay the piper." Mariner thought that perhaps Finau was going to be attacked while the scuffle happens. As soon as this happens, Mariner rushes to Finau's assistance. As he goes over there, another guy comes and wraps his arms around him from behind and pins him. Pins his arm, pins his body down, and then he looks up and he's watching all this and notices Finau's lack of attempt to help the Boniwa while they're holding him down. The women scream and they run into the fencing. They're either in the house or just at least in the fencing watching this. 10 minutes after all this happened, Finau's men, about 200 men, they show up. They gather themselves and show up with clubs and spears, and one of the other high chiefs is leading them to the scuffle. Finau go ahead and gives command to the chiefs to let the people of Tuponiwa go ahead and load into their canoes and leave, except for some of the main chiefs. Call them over here. I want to meet with them. The main chiefs of Vava'u. The other Vava'u people, the people of Tuponiwa, they can go load onto the canoes and start making their way out of here. Remember, it's nighttime now. At this time, one of the adopted sons of Tuponiwa, Hala Api Api, he shows up and he comes over and he strikes his club on the ground in front of Finau and asks him, "Why aren't you standing up and rising up, and why aren't we seeking the murderers and killing them?" Hala Api Api is telling him, "Why aren't you getting up to help so we can go take out whoever murdered this great man, this great chief of ours?" Hala Api Api is yelling at him, "If you fell by the club, don't you think Tuponiwa would stand up and rise up and get all his warriors and soldiers together to come and avenge your death? What are you doing, Finau?" After he got whatever he had to get out off his chest, Finau didn't reply. Usually when somebody's yelling and emotional, he would usually look down and allow them to get whatever it is off his chest. Hala Api Api, after he gets that off of his chest with his club, backs out a little bit and then sits down on the ground. Although the Vava'u people wanted to take revenge right then and there in Ha'apai, they also knew that they were in the disadvantage right now. Now this creates a divide between the Ha'apai and Vava'u people. Remember, they took the Port-au-Prince together. They went and took Nuku'alofa together. They went and took out Tuku'aho together. They were together this whole time, and now, because of Finau's ambitions to succeed the throne and to become king of all of Tonga, it has created a divide between the Ha'apai and the Vava'u people, just to appease Tupotoa and his political ambitions. The Vava'u warriors and the Vava'u chiefs, they thought, this isn't a good place to do this. They might cut off our canoes. They're way more numerous than us, and we came to help them, and now we are alone. Even though there are a lot of them, there wasn't enough of them. Not as much as there were of Finao's guys, the Hapai people, and Tupoto'a's guys now. So they all chill. This isn't the time and place. So they obey Finao's orders. Most of the warriors, most of the people get onto their canoes and they start making their way back to Vava'u. And the main chiefs that Finau ordered to come and sit down before him, talk to him, they come and they meet with Finau. Finau's sitting there. They all show up, they sit down in front of him, and they all are looking down in sadness. They lost their great chief, but they're all looking down, which is, I've grown up around this, and usually if a group is being punished, we'll all go sit down in front of whoever it is, a parent, an adult, or whatever, and everyone would sit there and just look down, because we know that it's not the eyes that need to work at this point in time. It's the ears. You're just going to be listening now. Finau goes on to describe and to comfort them with his ability, right? His eloquent words, his ability to articulate peace, to soften their hearts and tell them that I had nothing to do with this. I had no idea the conspiracy existed. I'm letting you right now know that whatever happened has nothing to do with me. At the same time, he let him know Tupoto'a was the one. He did conspire to kill him. He did tell me his intentions. He asked for my assistance, which I promised him. But he had no intention of fulfilling it. Finau said, I promised to help him, but I just made that promise just to appease him for the moment. I had no intention of him actually doing this or me being part of this plan at all. And I only said that to buy myself time to prevent any of this from happening. He came to me with the conspiracy. I promised I'd help. But at the same time, my intentions were, I'm going to try to convince him not to do this. We all know he's lying, but he's a great orator and he's a great articulator, and he's trying to convince these head chiefs that he had nothing to do with this. Probably doing a pretty good job, knowing his experience with people and his ability to make people be attached to him because of his words and his ability to speak. While he was speaking, all his wives and his women came down and sat down behind him. They sit there, Mariner said they sat there for probably a half hour and nobody said anything. They all sat in silence. The Vava'u guys obviously sad and angry, and Finau sitting there, hoping to have brought peace to their minds about him and his involvement, but they sit there for a half hour in silence. After a while, Finau gets up and he orders his followers and everybody to get up and for them to go back home. As they walk past Tuponiwa's body, Finau orders some of his guys, to carry his body and carry him. And so they carried it in front of Finau and they all walk with the body of Tuponiwa. As they got to Finau's house, they laid the body next to his house and they washed him off with water and oil, which is customary for them to use oil for everything, but they washed his body off and then they oiled him down. And this was done by one of Finau's wives, and also Mariner himself helped clean the body and oil it down. And nobody else offered to do this because they considered his body tapu, right? He's a high head chief of Vava'u, and so his body is tapu, and only a certain amount of people or certain people can touch a body, especially the body of a dead noble. And so it was just one of Finau's wives and Mariner himself that cleaned the body off and oiled him down. Now the thing with a tapu body, right? Because this is a chief, the body of a dead noble typically is tapu'd, and if anybody touches the body of a dead noble, then they are tapu'd, which means they are not allowed to touch anything, or nobody's allowed to touch them. Those restrictions put on those who actually touch the body, and it's a restriction of a few months, either 8 months or 10 months, depending on the level of the chief. So if it was a low chief, it was a few months, 3 or 4 months. If it's a high chief touching the body, a dead body of a lower chief, then it's only tapu for 2 or 3 months. And if it's a lower chief touching the body of a high chief, then it's 8 to 10 months. They're tapu, which means nobody's around to be around them, sleep, eat, drink with them. They're tapu for that amount of time. And in this case, because it was Finau's wife, tapu was put upon her. But being that Mariner himself was the prince, and he had a chiefly title, a lower amount of time. So along with being tapu, your hands are not allowed to feed yourself. Somebody else has to come and feed you. Touch the food that you touched, because now your hands are sacred property. If you wanted to use a toothpick after you ate, somebody had to be holding the toothpick. And you can guide that person's hand to pick your teeth, You couldn't pick it yourself. Funny and strange. If that person gets hungry and nobody's around to feed him, that person cannot use his hands to eat. They have to go down and eat it like a dog. They must not touch the food themselves. This is how superstitious they are as far as a tapu is concerned. They believe that if your hands are tapu because you touch the body of a dead high chief or a dead tutonga or whoever it is that's of higher ranking, they believe that if you eat with your hands, that your face will swell up, your head will swell up, and you will die. Mariner said that they believe this so much that nobody even wanted to test it to see if it wasn't true. That is the faith and the belief of these people. Nobody even wanted to test it. Mariner, after touching the body of a chief, a dead chief, after touching Tuponiwa, the Tongans would see him eat and would be amazed that his hands wouldn't swell up or his face wouldn't swell up and he would wither away and die. And so they credited that to the fact that he was a foreigner. The tabu doesn't apply to him because he's a Palangi guy from somewhere else. That's what they thought. That's how strongly they believed in these things. That's how strong their superstition was about the tapu itself. They didn't think that their gods governed other cultures and other people. That's all they thought. But they
I want to pause it right there real quick.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to, I want to talk a little bit about that tapu kind of perspective there. But
Okay.
anything that stuck out to you?
I mean that whole explanation of the, we call it the, the caretakers of the deceased, which is still happening even in today. So I mean, that part of the custom is still relevant and alive in today. And even amongst family members, and also when we have um, somebody from the Dubois family pass away, you see that's probably the biggest display that probably the whole world sees when the certain people have kind of the authority to handle the deceased royalty. So that those are my thoughts there. Unless you had something else.
Yes, I want to look at after touching dead. I want to see what the Jewish restrictions are.
Okay.
So it says here in ancient Judaism, primarily as outlined in the Torah, especially Numbers 19 and related rabbinic interpretations in the Mishnah and Talmud, contacting human corpse or certain related impurities rendered a person ritually impure for 7 days. This was considered the most severe form of ritual impurity. Here are the key restrictions and requirements after touching or being in the same enclosed space as a dead human body. Duration: the person remained ritually impure for 7 full days.
Okay.
Prohibited from entering the temple. Anyone with the taboo met could not enter the sacred precincts under penalty of spiritual excision. Prohibited from eating priestly tithes and sacrificial meat. This applied especially to priests, but also anyone who had eaten sacred food. Prohibited from touching or eating sacred foods. Transmitted impurity to others and objects by touch or by being under the same roof. Anything they sat or lay on became a primary source of impurity. And then there's a purification process, right? So full purity was only restored after nightfall on the 7th day. So what I find interesting here is you could say superstitions, but this is also one of the things that George Vason and other missionaries saw that were somewhat similar to ancient Jewish traditions, right? Where there was a period of impurity or taboo from touching a dead body. So that's just something that stuck out to me, and just wanted to kind of visit that real quick. Ask our digital assistant to give us some feedback on that. Any thoughts on that before we get back to the video?
No, interesting practices. You know, very very similar. And just to add to what you said, it's kind of the thing George Mason saw, and he compared it to the ancient practice of Israel. You know
Yeah,
what the Tongan people were practicing.
I find it very interesting listening to Ulukalala's explanation of her, and he's technically not lying, right? This is why he said, "Oh, I said I was going to help, but I wasn't really going to
Yeah,
help."
yeah.
Right? And I technically didn't say go do it,
Do
like you
it.
said.
Yeah.
Kokoepe.
Coco, it's Kokoipe is like up to you. Up to you. I'm
Yeah.
not saying yes or no. It's like you if you're gonna do it now, but I'm not saying no. And what to right? What Tupo Toa is trying to say here, I understand where Finau is going, but when he says he's not giving a no and it's like an indirect or iyo, yeah, like that's the yes for Tupo Toa. I say this is the time. That's why
Yes.
he goes and executes. Because he,
No.
you got to
Yeah.
think of this multiple layers. Because Tupo Toa is like he's not gonna wait to hear a yes. He's say
Yes.
yes. He's gonna know if he's being indirect, if he's being, a little bit like nonchalant, kind of in his interaction. That's the sign to Toa is saying, "This is the time. I'm gonna do it now." And
Yeah.
then yeah,
Yeah. And like you're saying, this is politics. This is the same thing that Donald Trump has to deal with China, right?
yep,
You can't just go and break China. You have to break it, but not really break them at the same time.
mm,
You have to give China a off ramp. Say, and that's the same thing, like you're saying with Tupo Toa talking with Ulkalala. Like you said, Ulkalala is not going to come and say, "Hell yeah." He's
yeah,
going to just say,
yeah,
"Up to you. What are your thoughts?"
yeah,
that's your deal. That's not my deal,
yes, yeah,
right? And so you have to think about that, and also just for us in the modern day, be very careful of who says they supported who or weren't a part of what. You have to be
yeah,
very careful. Politics, this happens in everyday politics, not the physical termination of someone, even though that sometimes happens. But a lot of times it is, well, I didn't know, or I wasn't a part of that. But it's like, well, but you could have stopped it and you didn't.
yeah,
So you have to be very mindful of these things. And our ancestors were in that same level of sophisticated politics as well. You
yeah,
know, this is not just, oh, you want to kill somebody, okay, go ahead and kill them. This is how you do it matters.
yes.
How you do it matters. Not just that
How
you did it, how you did it matters.
and just to make it relevant to today, not even how it happened, but also where it happened. It happened close to the vicinity where it was close to a lot of people. You can almost say it like sometimes people do things so that it's close to a certain journalist that's gonna share it with the world, or they leak a
Yeah.
certain message to a certain somebody that's gonna
The
publish it the next
propaganda.
day.
You telling me propaganda existed back then as well in ancient Tonga?
Yes, yes. So, like, even to the details, which is so relevant to today, of how governments work and officials working, maybe, and not only that, maybe they're working side by side to let things happen in a certain area that's gonna be able to mass disseminate information quick. Like this is the same thing that happened in a certain area with Ulukalala, making it sure it was close to a fence that all his relatives and people in Hapai that were close by that kind of advocate. Because if there was gonna be some, because Tupo Niwa had his followers there, there's gonna be something they were gonna they're gonna give benefit of the doubt to Finau, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of it's
It's
it's so
it's
relevant to
fascinating.
today.
It's
Yeah,
fascinating. It
yeah,
is fascinating.
Who believed in the tapu and its consequences for breaking it. Finau's wife didn't mind it because she had just come off of a 9-month tapu touching Tuitonga's body. Mariner himself had no problem doing this. Mariner considered Tuponiwa a good friend, a good man, a great chief, noble person. His ambition.
I think that's interesting. You notice and this is very important. There's all this political and military chaos,
mm,
but one of Finau's wives just came from doing the responsibility to the Tuitonga. there's no chaos in regards to dealing with the Tuitonga and the stuff there. But the political and the
Yeah.
military part of the empire is in chaos,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So it's not it's Fina Ukalala can't go to Tonga Tapu for political and for military purposes, but when his wife or family goes to the Tuitonga to fulfill a responsibility with the Tuitonga on Tonga Tapu, there's no problems there, right?
Yeah.
Where like you said, some of the people in Hihifo went to Hahake because it was more peaceful, less issues there, or they go to Haamoa. But
Mm.
everybody knows that the west side of Tongatapu, Ha'apai and Vava'u, they're in political and military tension with each other.
Yeah. Mm.
Were just for freedom, for liberty, for love of family, love of country. Mariner loved the Boniwa, so he had no problem and he didn't believe in the superstitions or the consequences of them either. The Boniwa was then brought into the house, laid on bale of ngatu, and they anointed his body with sandalwood oil for fragrance, good fragrance, and decent scent. Tuponiwa's wives show up. There's four of them. They show up and they mourn over his body now as it lays in the house of his brother, Finaurukalala. Mariner said that they look like mad women, right? And we know what that looks like. We've been to funerals. They're beating their chest and they're beating their face and mourning and yelling, and how we see at Tongan funerals. There's always a lady or a few ladies that mourn that way. You recognize that sound. It's the sound of agony. It's the sound of despair. How could this have happened to our great chief, to our husband? And all four of his wives are there mourning over Toponiwa's body. They get together and then they start singing a song. After all the mourning and yelling and screaming and beating and punching of their face and everything, they get together and they're singing a song over him. And it says, O Yahweh Seuke, O Yahweh Guomate. O Yahweh, ko te ofa e. O Yahweh, ko te tangi e. O Yahweh, mau mau e. And this song and these verses were repeated over the night, and they sang over him the
I
entire
want to
night.
come back
And they
a
would yell
little
the
bit.
things that you.
One of the things
Mhm.
that stuck out to me, we kind of changed. Did the term "seuke" change? Like
Mm.
maybe I just never really understood the term. Seuke was almost I viewed more as a positive.
As a joyful.
Yeah,
Mm.
but here
Interesting.
here Mariner is sharing his woe is unto me, and then you notice Urukalala said Seuke as well.
Yeah.
It's almost like Seuke is somewhat similar to Oyawe. Maybe it's more versatile,
Mm. Could
you
be.
know,
Could be.
because it's like Oyawe, Seuke. Like I was like, I don't know. I just thought that was to me. I've never really taken the term Seuke as woe unto me as like a negative thing. I thought it was like more like Seuke, like it's you hear it in the songs and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like highlighting. Maybe it's a highlighting term.
Mm.
It's the Oyawe is elevated or highlighted even more. I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I,
No,
I just
interesting. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure, and it could be. This is part of maybe most. Well, I said just from my own experience, I've kind of interpreted okay as like what you said, more in the performances and somewhat in a more of a shock positive expression kind of thing. When I've heard, but maybe I haven't just been around to hear it in that kind of term, and I don't know. Maybe some people still use it, but I don't know. Yeah, same as you, Dua.
and what's that term? Ngoa? I can see
Mm,
Mau Mau, right? But I don't know what that term right after the excuse me, the
bless you.
GOOA.
Well, how did Lolo say it? I think he said no.
Let's
Like, is it? Oh, yeah,
let's see what he says because yeah.
It's the
I'm not
sound
too sure.
of despair. How could this have happened to our great chief, to our husband? and all four of his wives are there mourning over Toponiwa's body. They get together and then they start singing a song. After all the mourning and yelling and screaming and beating and punching of their face and everything, they get together and they're singing a song over him. And it says, O Yahweh Seuke, O Yahweh Guo Mate,
Oh, cool.
Cool.
O Yahweh Guo Te Ofae,
Interesting. That's
O
how he
Yahweh
spells
Guo
out
Te
cool.
Tangie,
Mm.
O Yahweh Mau Mauwe. And this song and these verses were repeated over the night, and they sang over him the entire night. And they would yell the things that you would typically hear at a funeral from women who do that, right? What's going to happen with me? Like, you know what? Now that you're gone, you know, you leave. You just all of a sudden just left us. And, you know, the stuff you hear at funerals. Throughout the night. Mariner said throughout the night they would beat their chest and beat their face.
Sad, very
They
sad.
literally beat their breast, because this is back in a time where they didn't have any shirts, where breasts weren't.
Very, very kind. It's kind of sad, especially when you hear that they really seems like a lot of these guys earnestly
Cared
love
about.
the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that guy. Yeah. Yeah. It's very very sad, right? Because he seems like he was a good guy, but and you got to think about it. Just make sure there was a lot of sometimes to get power, and that's why people uh usually when they get power, or even sometimes even today when people try to get to certain positions regarding to make more money, there's a lot of sacrifices. Sometimes those sacrifices are not always good. I mean, we always hear about do the hard work, but not too many
At
times
what
we've heard.
cost? Yeah.
Yes, we don't hear about the sacrifices they have to do. Whether the family is sacrificed, the wife and children is sacrificed, good friends. I mean, this is what Ukalala was calculating, and he chose that it was, somewhat it was a thing that need to happen in order to gain us or attempt to gain a certain position. But it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. Like you said, I've learned that in my short life is we all want to achieve success, right? Like
Yes.
nobody wants to lose. But the one thing I've been more mindful of is not to just purely be focused on the success outcome, but to say, well, at what price? And then you can look at it clearly and say, here's the thing, the goal, here's the price. Is it fair? Is it worth it? It's no different than when you go to buy something, right? You go to buy something, what do you first ask? What's the price? You kind of have an idea of what you're going to get. You're going to go buy a car. You're like, the car can take me places, has a nice stereo, has all
Yeah.
these features. But then the next very important question is, at what cost, at what price? And is it worth it? Is it
Mm.
worth that sacrifice? And I think this is where a lot of people make the mistake, because I do believe you can have anything in life, right?
Yeah.
Like Ulkalala, he could have anything in life. The real question is, what are you willing to sacrifice? And is it worth sacrificing? Are you going to sacrifice something greater to get what you think is your goal and then lose the more valuable thing, right?
Mm.
Like if you're going to sacrifice your family, is it really worth to lose your family and get the power and the influence?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think so, but other people seem to think so, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that's very important, especially I think for like this younger generation coming up, because everybody wants to achieve this and have that and have all these things that they don't know, or they don't ask the question, well, what do I have to give up in
Mm.
order to get that? And I think one of the easy for us to say, because we're in America, we're already in the land where you have to pay for everything. But back in Tonga and in Polynesia and in the Pacific Islands, I think that's a question they have to ask more often, because they're asked to give up a whole lot more in order to get more opportunity and stuff. Here in America, we already kind of understand you got to give up your time, you got to give up, you got to spend money to get money. But in Tonga, you don't always have to give that up. And you have to ask yourself, what am I giving up? And is it worth this new thing? Or maybe it just makes sense to go overseas and pursue it. Or you know what? Stay in Tonga. There's certain blessings in Tonga that you get that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
But I think that's an important question on the individual and on a national scale.
Yeah. No, and just to add on to that, too, like, right, we're having so many people and probably so many families that their entire family is no longer in Tonga. So then you're asking yourself, right? People who are no longer in families are no longer in Tonga, and no one's on the land to kind of caretake, and maybe doing, and you're probably
Yeah.
removed somewhat generations, and then you get accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and it's very difficult even for the next generation. So the other generations made the sacrifice, and then it becomes a issue of like people don't even know what's the family connection, and it's very interesting, right? And that's why it's important to always, I think it's critical to always live in content. If you just live, take life what may come to you as it comes. Do you feel like you're content that you have enough, and you can not have the fancy things, but you're at the same time there's a lot of value just being Tonga. Tonga has provided land for every family since the Constitution has created, and the Tupo the first given land to every Tongan family to labor and live freely, you know. And then you probably don't have all the best stuff, but you still have land that, even the land that we live here in New Zealand, America, we're paying property taxes
Taxes. Yeah.
every every year. So even though you say that's your own home, is it really your home? Because you're still paying taxes after you pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
In Tonga, that's really your land because that's your ancestors' land that's been there for generations. It's just, and yeah, I'm probably seeing it right now, right? That generation that has left Tonga to go, and now their entire family has all gone to wherever. And then that next generation, when they come back, they're just another tourist in Tonga, and it's very difficult for them to even contemplate if they could even live there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that thing because after the more generation that it's removed, uh, you find out that maybe in the that next few generations, sixth generation or whatever it may be, they find out that they were told their family live in this land, but they have people from, let's just say, give an example, came from Niwa, or I'm not gonna just say anything, or Ewa came and stayed in a certain place, and they're saying that's their land, and then they're all confused, and then look, they don't know what's going on at the
Yep.
same time. You know what I mean? It happens, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. That's the cost, right? You seek
There's a
better life,
trade-off.
and I know people are saying, and then that's kind of it's very interesting because I know that's the common saying. People migrate out, right? They say search better opportunities, and then when you find out over generations, then you find out they're just another person living in the U.S. and they heard stories. Now it just becomes stories like, oh, my great grandparents say we used to live here, but there's somebody else living there now. You know what I mean?
And they
And
won't
it's
let
not,
me in the door.
they don't let me in. It's a marolere from the tua api. They'll come, they invite me to come and eat and stuff, but this is somebody else, and they're different family members. They say they come from somewhere else. So, those are the interesting dynamics that now that we're having multiple generations live outside of Tonga is probably going to happen more often because really the if no one's willing to stay, we've been very lucky that we have someone within our close family that is still there, and some families don't have anybody. So
Hmm. No,
you know,
100%. And that's, and here's the question, who's actually free? The guy who wakes up every day doesn't have to pay property taxes, doesn't have to pay for his land,
mm,
right? And Tonga needs to really think about that,
yeah,
right? Is do they really want to go and be quote unquote fully democratic? Well, what does that mean? What
Mm.
does that mean? Does that mean, oh, we can if the government, enough people in the government say, well, now you have to buy your land and you have to pay property taxes and you have to do all that stuff. You guys want to be like the West? Because the more democratic you become, you're becoming more like the West. Or do you want to say, we'll take some of the good things from the West, but we want to be Tongan and we want to
Yes.
keep those things, you
Yeah.
know? So, okay. Let's
Mm.
try and wrap this up here. We're going past hour number 2, so we'll try and wrap this up
Organs,
here.
right? Or body part, where once Christianity and the Western world showed up, then they found out, oh, the Western world considers breasts as a sexual organ. That's when they started covering themselves. But at this point in time, the women were still shirtless because breasts are just breasts. All they're used for is to feed babies. That's it. It's like walking around with a couple of giant baby bottles.
Maria,
You know what I mean? It's no
giant
different from
baby
walking
bottle.
out of a supermarket with a couple jugs of milk.
Hey Lolo, how come this part of the video had more pictures than the rest of the? Hey Lolo, I noticed
Maria.
that this portion had more pictures than the rest of the.
The episode of the accounts of William Mariner. Maria.
Ay, Yahweh. Ang hapuwi pula ya Lolo hetay mini, eh?
Yes. Inu ke fod.
They're just milk. With you goes all our happiness and our comfort and the luxury of being free and loving
Oh
and laughing,
Yahweh, oh Yahweh.
so on and so forth. Mariner said
I
there's
didn't
about
know
150
that
people in attendance.
Lolo was joining us, but Kawa University just in time for that
Hey.
comment.
Maria lah. Malo, Lolo.
Ay,
Kama
Yahweh.
University, eh?
Si tama Kawa University kataki na tau fu ay Kawa.
That's funny.
Ay, Yahweh. Maria.
There mourning to mourn all night. Finau and Mariner were there. They sat there and they stayed there all night. I guess you could imagine that as you can a funeral that happened today. Perhaps there was food prepared for those who came. Perhaps there was kava obviously there. Right? We already know kava's everywhere over there. In mourning and people there and among them. Inside, outside the fencing, people.
Someone needs to clip that and send it to Akaneshi Kaufushi. So she
Oh.
knows that Kawa was everywhere. We don't need to say, oh, Kawa was just for duty and ceremonial. Kawa was for the everyday man and woman.
No. When Polynesians were just socially, they just talked. There was no kind of drinks. It was just talk story. No, there was always some kind of drink to keep us conversating.
Yes. Yeah, sure. This is a good comment right here from Enox. Someone passed me a kava with extra cream. What?
Oh,
Just a new flavor.
Maria,
eh?
Inox, Malo.
Yeah. So everybody else, they drink their kava and then have their chaser after. Enox just says, just put my chaser in the kava. Eh? One time, more efficient.
Wow. Maria.
Moving around like
cream.
Eventually, Finau's wives, they retire to go rest. Mariner sits there and contemplates the words that the ladies sang, the words that these wives spoke and yelled, contemplated, either in truth or just in pondering over his friend Tuponiua. Mariner describes the yelling, the mourning. For those who understand what that is and have seen and heard Tongan women mourn that way. They'd start high and then they'd go lower and lower. The more they talk, and then they'd go again. Then they'd beat their breast and beat their face. But they did that all throughout the night. Mariner contemplated of the fact that this man was accused and unjustifiably, undeservedly sacrificed. Such a good man. At this time also the security was out. On the beach, out and among them, around them, just in case the Vava'u guys came back to attack. They already knew what it was. But the rest of the night stays quiet and everything is good. And the next day, Finau gets up and he prepares for a funeral. tells them to load the body. It's wrapped in ngatu and tied in ngatu, and they wrap the body and they make their way to Uiha, where Tupo Niwa is from. 50 or 60 canoes follow, along with the king's warriors and his men. A whole bunch of canoes from the Vava'u people, they follow along too. They follow the body. So they were peaceful over the night, but they are now all making their way down to Uiha. They get to Uiha and they go to the Faitoka of his family. Faitoka of him and his chiefs. Mariner describes it as a tomb. It's a 8x8 slab, and then on the side walls is an 8-foot slab, and this whole entire thing is a box, basically, a tomb in the ground. And then what covers it is another slab, basically a giant stone, either cut or the giant stone itself that they remove, put the bodies in, and then they return back. So you have all of Uiha there. You have the Ha'apai people are there now, and the Boniwa's people from Vava'u, now they're there. They're all there at the Mala'i.
I find that fascinating because he's a Ha'apai guy from Ha'apai, but he's overseeing, like we said, this was all part of the Tu'itonga's empire, Ha'amoa, Fiji, parts of Fiji, right? A guy from Uiha, but he's the beloved leader of Vava'u, right? And right now, Ulkalala is known as a Ha'apai guy, but we know later on in Tupo, the first time, Ulkalala is a Vava'u guy.
Yeah.
Because it's moving. This is dynamic.
Correct.
This is, a lot of people don't seem to understand that. They always just think like, oh, it was just tribal within a geographic region. Like, no, these were a ruling class family that took posts of leadership, like in the Roman Empire, right? Your family's high in the Roman Empire, but you went to Israel and you were the guy in charge of Israel and to different parts of the empire. Governor there.
The Faitoka, when they remove it, they do see that it is a tomb of his ancestors. So there are people that are already in there, buried from long before, and they put them in with their ancestors, and then they cover it back up. No sooner did they cover the tomb and close, there was a circle there and people that were gathered. A guy named Siulua, one of the murderers, one of the guys who assassinated Tuponiwa, his name is Siulua. He comes into the middle of the circle and pretty much calls out the Vava'u people with his club. Slams his club on the ground and tells them, "Here, I'm here. If any of you think that you guys are going to come and perform an insurrection or come and fight or bring war to Hapai, come let us end it here. I was part of this entire thing. Let my death, if you guys come and kill me, let my death be the end of this." So Siulua was doing something that was brave. At the same time, he may have been trying to protect his country by saying, you know what, I was part of the assassination.
Easy to say when you're in Ha'apai.
Yeah.
And these guys are want to be super brave? Get on a boat and go to Vava'u and say that. This is kind of like the guy who came and hit Tupo Niwa after he's already dead and does this. I would have done this long time ago. It's like, how is that brave when you are in Ha'apai saying that? Right? Like,
You know
come
how
on.
sometimes we all have those people, like they only act brave when everyone is watching. They say, "Oh, this is the time to get out." They are lying and stuff. But
Yeah.
when no one's watching and it's just maybe only a little people there, then they're not as loud. They're not as upfront. We all know. Maybe he was just advertising himself. He's a tough guy. I don't know. I'm just saying.
He's just
trying to
like the
speak.
last guy. He just wanted to have a story. Irifia kang tama yaw, That was ilo. If they say something to me, I'm gonna smack them. Kahiri ya. He's saying that because the Vava'u guys know they're at a disadvantage, and at the same time, it's probably for them. It's like, this is not the right place to take revenge. We're here for Tupo Niwa's funeral. In a way, it would be disrespectful to Tupo Niwa maybe to cause an issue, do a thing there. So, like you're saying, some of these people, they know the right places to Fiehia because they know nothing's going to happen.
Yes.
And like you said, some of these things haven't changed. Some of these characters, you find them everywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
You guys come, let's go one-on-one, let's fight, and let my death be the end of this. Probably to protect his family, probably to protect Hapai, or perhaps just to show his loyalty to the Tupo To'a and to Finau, to show everybody that he's brave. This happens after Tuponiwa was buried in Uiha in front of all the Hapai, the Uiha, and the Vava'u guys now. But it didn't work. He called them one out, he called them all out. It didn't work because the Vava'u guys already had a plan. None of the Vava'u guys moved, none of the chiefs or the warriors moved. They stood there and watched him call them out,
Smart.
knowing in their minds that they have a different plan. Nah, it's not going to happen here, and it's not going to happen the way you want it. They're basically saying, we'll be back. After this happens, the group disperses. Everybody leaves. Finau orders his men to go and start securing the premises, secure Uiha, start securing Hapai. Let the Vava'u guys leave so that nothing happens here. Finau's already prepping them for defense. Finau brings the 4 carronades that they took to Nuku'alofa. Finau calls for the carronades, put it in front of the fencing of the house. We're not to allow any of the Vava'u guys to carry any weapons of any kind. So they disarm the Vava'u guys. You can't carry any weapons. No knives, no swords, no spears, no clubs. Just to prevent any insurrection. The Hapai guys, on the other hand, they were all told to arm themselves in defense. Make sure nothing happens. We'll describe more of the funeral customs when we talk about Finaus later on in the book. Finau calls a meeting with the chiefs of Hapai and the chiefs of Ava'u. They come together and they're sitting around a bowl of kava. And this bowl is specific to funerals of chiefs or to death itself. And he makes everybody swear. All the Hapai and the Ava'u guys swear an oath not to create any more havoc or create any wars or any trouble while they're there. And everybody, when they make that oath, have to be touching the bowl. So everybody reaches over, they're touching the bowl, and they make the oath that no problems will happen while they're there, while they're mixing the kava. So
Interesting.
you got one guy mixing the kava, and everybody else's hands are on the bowl, touching it as they make the oath. The bowl is consecrated for this purpose, and it's consecrated to a god named Tu'ifuapulotu. Tu'ifuapulotu just means the king of the spirit world. And because they had so much faith in the gods, they had so much faith in Tapu, and perhaps these days are considered superstitions, they all were absolutely for this oath. Live or die. They believe that this oath is absolute. And if anybody breaks this oath, an untimely death would come to them. And they all believed that. The Vava'u chiefs were then told by Finau, from here on out, Doi'umu, Finau's aunt, is to be the head chief of Ava'u. And they are to show the same respect as they did to Boniwa. Any of her kava ceremonies are to be treated with respect as well. All the Vava'u chiefs promised allegiance and respect to their new chief, Doi'umu, Finau's aunt. After this oath was made, everybody dispersed to their houses. The following day, Finau and his attendants and his people, they go back to Lifuka. Shortly after that, the Vava'u people get on their canoes and they go back, except for some of the chiefs. Some of the chiefs were held back by Finau. Finau basically detains them. The reason why he detains those Matapudes or those chiefs is because Finau didn't want the people or the warriors to go under the command of the chiefs to come back and go to war and to start any insurrection. So he keeps the chiefs, let the people go, get back all the way back to Vava'u, so the chiefs don't have a way to fight right now while they're still there. And then eventually he'll send the chiefs off after the people get back to Vava'u. 30 or 40 men come back from Vava'u. Some of Finau's people, they bring news to Finau, letting Finau know, look, the people in Vava'u are now under Toi'umu, your aunt, who you put in charge. And Toi'umu now wants to start an insurrection against you to be out of your control. They want to start their own nation, cut off from Hapai and the ruling class in Hapai.
Hey, I see a common theme here from Vava'u. Vava'u is always looking to break off and do their own thing.
Yeah, see that probably that's what it is, and then I'm not surprised. That's probably why Tupo the first was in Vava'u to say when he the Powono kind of when he dedicated, maybe do it there because he had to do it in Vava'u because you never know Vava'u. I didn't know Vava'u was gonna try to be part of the colony of Spain.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
to do it. I don't know. I'm just thinking, out of all places, why Powono? And I knew he had a residence there, but now that I'm just trying to connect the stories, man, I didn't know Vava'u was. I knew Vava'u probably in all of Tonga had probably the most non-Tongans, Palangis, because of the harbor and many
Yeah, a
foreign
natural
ships
harbor
would
there.
go. Yes, would go there, and there's a lot of Palangi people in Vava'u for a certain time, and that's why I was thinking, oh, I wouldn't be surprised if they had part or whatever. But maybe it was just their behavior just to always be separate. The
Mm.
Vava'u. Vava'u folks.
Hey, Lenny said, "Hey, don't mock my vavao." Lenny,
Oh,
don't
hey,
worry.
hey,
There's
hey!
some
Don't worry.
vavao guys with us. We the halal foodie
Yes,
guys right here.
yes. We're
We're
halal
just
foodie.
laughing.
We always we have some Vava'u connection. Then the kataki. Just talanoa in at the tanoa that we're doing over here.
All
Sorry,
right.
Len.
Kataki,
They no
Lenny.
longer want to be under your command, and Toy Umu's leading the charge. Toy Umu now feels that it's time to shake off the yoke of Finau. Toy Umu understands Finau's mentality and knows that it wouldn't be a good thing for Vava'u to be under that type of control, under that type of leadership. Toy Umu understands her nephew and what a treacherous person he is. Toy Umu seems to follow after the spirit of Tupo Niwa, which Vava'u absolutely loved. So although this was Finau's aunt, she was also loyal to Duponiua because she understood what a great man Duponiua was, what a good person he was, what a good leader, what a good chief he was, and thought to show her allegiance to the righteous cause of Duponiua by letting themselves go from the yoke that now sits upon them from Fina, Tuponiua's brother. Toyumu considered herself a great friend of Tuponiua and thought this is the best way for me to honor our relationship and our
Maria.
friendship between me and Tuponiua is by doing this for him against his brother, which is at this point, Vava'u think is a wicked guy. She sits there and counsels with the Matapules. What do you guys think? Some of the Matapules actually agreed with Finau. Other Matapules disagreed with what they thought Finau was doing. And Toyumu sat here and listened to both sides. While they were discussing this, Toyumu's sister runs into the circle while they were talking with a spear and a club and yells at the men and tells them, why is it taking so long for you guys to go and avenge our chief? If the men are going to turn women now, then it's time for the women to turn men. Let us go do what
Do
needs to
your
be done
job.
by taking
Oh,
out Finau. Brave
Vava'u.
lady,
Hey,
probably not
women,
practical, but
Vava'u. Take it
brave.
easy.
Oh, Yahweh. I think everyone needs to remember this story if you're going to marry to Vava'u. Eh? You
Mm.
better,
Well,
the Vava'u ladies want you to wear the pants. If not, they're going to say, give me the pants.
yes. Well, and that's our right. Our Vava'u side was from the a woman from Halal Foodie that came over to Tongatapu because maybe the women in Vava'u are just top dogs over there. Yeah,
They don't mess around,
I
you know?
know.
And it looks like they're on
Saturday?
a timetable. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
are you going to wear the pants or or do I have to put the pants on?
Not only they take care of children and everything, they're standby warriors to stand in the front line. Oh, Mari, Vava'u.
Maria.
Lady
Maria.
nonetheless. Toy Umu's sister goes on to say, you know what, maybe our fight, if we the women go and fight and die and sacrifice ourselves, that'll probably give inspiration to our men to then go and sacrifice themselves the same way. A worthy cause to die for liberty, for freedom, for family, not to be under the rule.
Interesting. It's interesting
Mm,
because maybe it's not by chance the Vava'u Code is the first laws of liberty that are installed in Tonga.
mm,
You know, when you hear this, if this narrative is correct,
mm,
there seems to be, just from the storyline, Vava'u seems to be very much preoccupied with liberty and not being
mm.
overly oppressed with taxes and being overburdened. You know, what do they like the Tea Party? No taxation without representation. Maybe
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Vava'u people are like, man, on Tonga Tapu, we don't have good representation. Why are we getting taxation over here? But I mean, it just seems like over there they're much more concerned with liberty, and that's what they value the most. And maybe that's not by chance that the Vava'u code is the first real liberating codes to happen. Just a thought
yeah.
there.
No, no, no. Yeah, I mean, shoot, looks like, and the thing is about Vava'u, it seemed it was big enough to sustain big population because all the stories I've heard, they had a great harbor, they had great resources, soil. I mean, much bigger than Ha'apai. So I wouldn't be surprised that they think that they were able to. That's why they had that mentality. We can self sustain ourselves. That's what I'm thinking.
Mm,
And I don't know. That's just thinking out loud. But
no,
A
100%.
treacherous man like Fina Wukalala. Now, it's probably a habit once people are being led by a great man like Tupo Niwa for them to wait around for orders. And it took Toy Omu to come and counsel with them. Some agreed with Finau, some didn't. Some were Tupo Niwa's absolutes, whatever. Toy Omu's sister comes in and excites the men and lets them know, what are you guys doing? What are you guys waiting for? What do you guys need to see? Did you see us, the women, go sacrifice ourselves so that you guys can finally activate the men in you? Seems like that what she was trying to do, was trying to inspire them, because they are used to taking orders from Tupo Niwa. Didn't seem like there was anybody high at this point, and now that Finau Balala made Toy Umu the high chief, they're waiting on orders from Toy Umu. Toy Umu's sister comes in, and now they come up with an idea. Let us build a fort worthy of Finau coming and trying to win and not being able to get in. These guys have been to Nuku'alofa, so they know what the cannons look like. They know what the guns look like. These guys are going to build a wall that can withstand the cannon fire, that can withstand gunfire.
Great Wall of
The men
Vava'u.
now get up and they start building this fortress. Toyomu inspires them with this entire speech. Either we sit here and let Finau come and get us, or let Toto'a get us, or we get up and we do something. The men get up and start building. That's when these 30 or 40 guys leave Vava'u, when they go deliver the entire message to Finau and to Toto'a back in Lifuka. At this time, there were about 8,000 people that lived on Vava'u. So they're going to build an entire fortress that'll take in all of the people that stayed in Vava'u. But they want to build a metropolis that they can all stay in and be protected from any attack from Finau. This place they called the Mu'a, or the metropolis, or the capital, right? This is the main town here in Vava'u. So Vava'u has a Mu'a now. Fumu'a Vava'u with Fumu'a Lai.
My
This is a
city, yeah.
great big city. This is chapter 5, part 1.
Ladies,
Okay?
we have done
Now we're in
my
Vava'u.
analysis.
We've gone over the assassination of Tupo Niwa and everything, and now we're going to go into the building of the Mu'a in Vava'u in the next part, chapter 5, part 2, coming up. Stay tuned, because this is going to be a great part of the story. And everybody in Vava'u, let everybody in Vava'u know what's going on right now. But these are things that I've never heard of. But there's going to be a lot of things that you've never heard of that's going to be happening in Vava'u. Now we're leaving Hapai and all the things that happen in Hapai, Nuku'alofa, and Tonga and everything. Now we're going to focus on Vava'u. So stay tuned. Okay, tu'afa.
Hey, Vava'u lahi. That's big
Maria.
Vava'u. Big Vava'u. Any closing thoughts, Masi, as we close out the podcast episode today?
Closing thoughts. Appreciate Lolo for the account here. You know, just gives us an opportunity just to dissect, and also just to have details that we can talk about more with everybody, just about Tongan history. This is part of Tongan history, something that happened. So yeah, I'm just grateful for Lolo for doing it. Hopefully he keeps it going. Um, appreciate everyone viewing. Ofatu to everyone, and a great live digital kava session this evening. Tua, that's all from me. Mahalo.
Iyo, malo, Alpito. Real quick, once again, we always take time to recognize our paying members of
Oh, Mel,
the channel,
Malo.
Malo Mel, and see a lot of people here calling for Lolo. We've had Lolo a couple times on the
Yes.
podcast, but we're seeing a lot of requests. We are overdue, and Lolo is joining us tonight. So Malo, Lolo, and maybe we should work out a time to get updated and have some more discussions, Lolo. Closing thoughts for me, as always, it's fascinating to really look back, and sometimes to see the future, you just look into the past, right? And to understand what's going on now and in the future, if you study the past, you can really understand what's going on around us. Once again, don't fall for the first narrative you hear, right? We can learn a lot from the politics and the interactions of Fina Ulukalala and his brother, and the aunt that's going to Vava'u, and all the different people that are vying for power. Sometimes the person who has the greatest will or desire to serve the people is the first guy to get sacrificed, unfortunately, like Tupo Niwa. And just
Mm,
be very mindful. Propaganda existed in Vava'u and Ha'apai in the 1800s. Propaganda exists today. But really, really grateful for everyone's support. Once again, another paying member. Mika,
Oh,
appreciate it.
Mika Losiade.
Masi,
Mahalo.
Mika, you showed up just in time for Vavau's mua being built.
Oh,
Uh, but once again, to close, we're really, really grateful for all the support. Many ways
yeah,
you can support, as you mentioned, where we continue to grow with those who are paying members. It's just a small donation every month, goes a long way with the super chats.
yeah.
And just so everybody that shared last month, I mean, we're getting close to 100,000 views every 28 days on the channel, right? And we've gone over 25,000 hours of watch time. We did the calculate. That's about 3 years of people sitting and watching. So please, liking, sharing, subscribing, becoming a paying member of the channel goes a long way. Super chats and super thanks going out to everyone. As always, we finish every episode. We say,
Tua, one more thing.
yes,
One more
yes,
thing.
sir.
Sorry, before you end it, Tua, I just wanted to just to share with our viewers that we've got some exciting um, guests coming up. So please keep on the support. I don't want to drop names just in case if there's some difficulties, but we've got some
Hiccups. Yeah.
awesome hiccups, you know. But we've got some awesome people that's kind of prepared, or we have it scheduled. It's already on schedule coming out soon. That I feel like we don't get enough time to hear about, but hopefully we get this guest on and it will be very beneficial for history for all of Polynesia. So just stay tuned
No,
and
good point.
stay ready for it because I feel like we got some awesome guests prepared for the future. That's it, Tua. That's it for me.
Koya.
Mahalo.
No, that's a very good point. Really appreciate you bringing that up. As always, stay bold, right? Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions and always stay curious. Peace.
Peace.